See. Okay. Afternoon. Hi, Mr. President.
Vaccines are moving quickly into phase 1 and phase 2 trials.
They'll be ready in December.
Trials of dozens of therapies and cures.
It's August 24th, 2025, Sunday.
Strides with
In your time, Andrew, having your time was like being sex chat. No, I don't
you
know.
probably heard logistically, you have our military
By the way,
engaged.
the past Andrew has completely lost his superpowers, knowledge of superpowers, so he doesn't know. The me in the past does not know.
The military is ready to go.
Anyway,
They can deploy hundreds
this is
of
Anthony
thousands of men
Fauci
and
in,
women a day.
I don't know what his date is.
You know what they're going to be doing is they're going to be
Let's see
doing
what his
the
date
vaccine,
is.
which we are geared up for. Even
This is Anthony Fauci and the Biden administration
chances of us
on,
having it are extraordinary.
he is January
Secretary
29th.
will update us on
Next
all
year,
that
January
we're doing
29th.
to
You are
safeguard
on May
American
19th,
citizens.
2020. Andrew is August 24th, 2025. And this is
virus
long COVID.
Everyone, it's nice to see you here.
of our nation's
Welcome. And
They
economy.
are in January 23rd, 2023. Scientists.
On the agenda, and we have
Bunch of scientists.
fantastic speakers and fabulous
Secretary
questions
of
for the
State
audience. So
updated us
let's
on
start
the
right
White
away.
House Opportunity and
I'm Harriet
Revitalization
Kamishi,
Council.
the commissioning
Oh, yeah.
editor for the
He's
Open
okay.
Access journal
He's okay.
Oxford Open Immunology, which
He's
is
okay.
hosting today's event. And
okay.
before
Dr.
we
Carson's
begin,
okay.
I'll just go through
Okay.
some quick housekeeping points with you.
He doesn't have the temperament to be
You can
president.
participate in the ongoing
not in the
Twitter
fu-
conversation
He's not in politics in the
starting
future, Dr. Carson.
now, by searching hashtag OxOpen long-COVID. You can see that in the lower left-hand corner of the slide here.
Well,
And you can also
you
use
know
the
there's a
chat
good thing for
tab
not being
in the upper
president
right-hand
in
corner of your screen
between
to
in the
interact
4
with
years
other
in the future.
audience members.
Understand how successful
The
we are.
Q&A
In
tab is
2021, there's going to
located
be a
next to the
Delta
chat
variant.
tab.
In
And later,
June
once the question and answer session
2021,
begins,
it's going to be Omicron
you'll
variant
list
in
here
November
the selected
2021.
questions for the speakers.
Omicron variant is going to be
Note that
fun.
this session is being recorded,
Sarcasm from
including the
Andrew.
question and
China
answer
and other
time.
countries, I probably
And
got
for
elected
closed
for
captions,
primary reasons was
to turn them on, you should click on the little CC button on the upper right-hand area of your
Okay.
screen.
I will.
And finally, we're all dialing in from different countries, so please bear with us if there are any technical hiccups.
Yeah.
And now I'll hand it over to our journal's editor-in-chief, Professor Danny
This goal,
Altman. Danny,
slash
over to
red
you.
tape and bureaucracy and unleash the largest industrial mobilization
I'm
since
speaking
World War II.
through my iPhone. I hear you okay.
Danny Olmis, professor, host, Professor Akiko and Dr. Elizabeth Whittaker, and Professor Judith Brookfield,
We
and
have now established
Oxford Open and Nixie has long COVID.
we're supplying them to other countries.
How much do you know about the virus, Mr. President, in
We're never
May?
going to be able to do ventilation.
Well, you are fine, Mr. President. Your brain.
We've been an incredible thing what's happening. Biggest
My
mobilization
apologies
since
for this technical error. Danny, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we
we're
can't
fighting
really
for the
hear you.
livelihoods of American workers,
so-
and we must continue to cut
Right.
through every
There you go.
piece of red
Um,
tape that stands in our way, and that's why
There you
this
go.
is such an exciting
I'm not
meeting.
sure
Beyond
why,
the
but
cabinet meeting, which is
there
always
seems to
good,
be a
Pause,
disruption to the microphone.
because with millions of Americans forced out of work by the virus, it's more important
and
than ever to remove
if I
burdens that
speak,
destroy American jobs.
Yeah.
In a few minutes, I will sign an executive order instructing federal agencies to use any and all authority to waive,
This is better.
suspend,
This
and
is better.
eliminate
Let's try that.
unnecessary
Yeah.
regulations.
They're not
that
talking about long
limit
COVID
economic
and,
recovery.
Well, I need to tell
We want to
you.
leave it that way.
And I'm good now.
Yeah, I
Cases we
mean,
will be able to.
I don't know. Europe
Yeah,
is so
but
much
it's better
better
now.
when they because
And you've heard me say many times.
Okay,
different,
so
the debt to GDP rise in Europe is so much lower than the United States.
Regulations, we've done more
It's
regulations.
I think it's because Biden. Biden's gonna win the election. It's also my president.
4 years, 8 years, or
Biden's gonna win the election.
And
You
they
know,
really
and,
are
done more
the
regulation
expert.
cutting. I don't mean just in a
I
year or
was
2
so
years. I
excited
mean,
to be able
in
to
the
get
3.5
the
years that
people
we've
you
been
can see on the screen on
we've cut
board.
far more
So
regulations
this
by a
is
factor of a lot.
a discussion with a
Any other
diverse audience.
Administration, any other
Uh,
presidency. So
just
something. I'm directing agencies to review
It's a
the
COVID
hundreds of
day, you know. It's
regulations
Sunday, August 24th, 2025.
in response to the virus and
Okay, hold
make
on.
these suspensions
Even
permanent where
amazed
possible.
responders
I'm
of
also instructing agencies to use the emergency
registering.
authorities to speed up
They're
regulations
still doing some sort of
for new rules that will create jobs and prosperity.
technical glitch.
Get rid of unnecessary rules and regulations. We had cases where it would take 20 years to build a highway.
Just get over to Professor Governor's technical.
Agencies to get the same
Without
permits.
much further ado,
Yeah.
shall we move ahead to
Yeah, sounds good.
our great speaker, Professor Akiko Iwasaki? And she's the Sterling Professor of Immunobiology and Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology at Yale University.
Yeah.
And she's also the investigator of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute in Maryland.
Viruses and Immunity on Twitter.
Akiko, thank you so much.
Hi,
Thank you so
Professor
much
Ozaki. It is
for
Andrew.
your
It is
introduction, and
Sunday,
sorry that
August
you couldn't
24,
hear,
2025 for Andrew.
much of what you said,
We're
but,
briefing the president
that's
in
the
May
spirit of the
2020.
segment.
And
Hopefully you can
January
hear me.
29th for
My name is Akiko Iwasaki. I'm an immunologist. at
Dr.
Yale.
Rochelle Walensky
Been
and
studying
Dr.
COVID and more recently long COVID.
Yeah.
And I'd like to share with you some of the insights that we're getting and also
I'm
speak
2
about
years
the
in the future. I know
mechanisms.
a little bit more.
So
But
before I get into long COVID, I'd like
This
to
is,
remind everyone that there are many
January
other
23rd, 2023
unexplained post-acute
for
infectious
Alexis.
syndromes that are known to occur after encounter with many distinct viruses and bacterial and parasitic pathogens, some of which are listed here.
Lyme
This is a
disease is
review
one of
that I
them.
was fortunate to co-author with Jan Chotko, who himself has an ME/CFS disease and has done a lot of great research in this
I don't know what
area. But you can
MEMFS
see
is.
that SARS-CoV-2 joins a long list of other viruses and other pathogens
What is?
that can cause a sort of long-term symptoms. Much of it is debilitating, and has must have a common sort of trigger that
Chronic
converts on a
fatigue
very
syndrome,
similar
myalgic
type of syndrome
encephalitis,
after
chronic fatigue,
development.
CFS.
So we're very interested in understanding how many different pathogens can converge to develop a similar kind of syndrome.
MECFS, yeah. Chronic fatigue syndrome.
So diving into the long COVID pathogenesis, there are a number of hypotheses.
President Trump,
which
you
I've
do
listed
get
only four
COVID,
of them
and your
with
pox
you.
actually gets
But
pretty
these are the
low
major ones
when
that
you
we
get
are
COVID. By the way.
pursuing.
They were
First
scared, but you're gonna be
hypothesis is that there
fine.
might be a viral reservoir
Your pox sucks. When you get COVID,
associated
President Trump,
pathogen-associated molecular patterns such as RNA that persist in the host. When that happens, you can have activation of adaptive immune cells if there's antigens there, or innate immune cells if there are viral RNA present.
That's one of the
And that
hypotheses
can
we
cause
talked
lingering
about.
symptoms if they're not removed
There's 4
properly.
causes of long COVID,
I've
basically.
only listed a handful of papers on the left, but there are over 100 different papers already coming out and demonstrating the presence of viral antigens in RNA. And an interesting paper that showed that dogs that are trained to detect SARS-CoV-2 infected supernatants are able to identify 50% of long haulers, whereas 0% of the controls were identified by such dogs, indicating that there must be volatile compounds that are released from such viral reservoirs that may be sensed by the dogs.
Oh
The
my
next
god.
hypothesis is autoimmunity. There is a very nice
Dogs can
paper
smell
by
it?
Jim Heath's group that demonstrated lupus-related autoantibodies at the time of acute COVID to be one of the 4 predictive factors for long COVID.
So there you go,
Papers
everyone's
that
gonna
have
love
looked
this
at
one.
later time points, however,
It is,
including our own
It is
blueprint,
August
has not
24,
really
2025.
identified
Hi, Ivanka.
autoantibodies,
You can use. That's Stephen Miller. That is Stephen
that
Miller,
are
right?
associated
Just pull it.
particularly with long COVID
That's
disease.
Stephen Miller. YouTube.
The
So.
third hypothesis is dysbiosis of microbiome and or reactivation of latent viruses that include herpes virus family
Yeah,
members
that's
such
actually
as
true.
Epstein-Barr virus. There are now 3
From what I
or
know
4
in the
papers
future,
coming out that
Epstein-Barr
demonstrate
virus, herpes
the
virus,
reactivation of these latent viruses,
inflammation,
potentially in
autoimmunity,
patients.
viral reservoirs,
And we and
and
others have also
possibly,
been looking
yeah,
at
I mean,
the impact of distal
permanent
inflammation,
organ damage
such as
from the
respiratory
infection could
infections,
actually be another cause.
impacting distal organs
just-
such as
yeah.
the central nervous system. And this was demonstrated with Michel Monge's group that
Microglia
distal
and
inflammation can
astrocytes
have
and,
a long-term consequence on the cells
Because
within
those,
the CNS,
the
resulting
human
in,
brain, President Trump, the human brain is not just those neurons that process your brain. And
axons
you have
of
other
neurons
cells
within
inside
the
your
white
brain
matter
that do
of
stuff.
animals and in human
And
patients.
COVID can actually infect those other cells in your brain. And
So the study that I'd
as
like
far
to
as I know,
highlight
none of
today
you
is,
all in the past
is a
actually told
collaboration
people
that's
that we have a
done
zombie virus.
with Dr. David
Which is a
Petrino's
zombie
group
apocalypse
at Mount
virus. So I
Sinai
was actually
School of
pretty pissed by
Medicine,
that. I mean,
along with his
that's the
colleagues,
thing. I mean,
Jamie,
if you
Laura,
told
and
people
Dana
that this
are,
virus actually infects your
pictured
brain,
here, we
I mean,
have
people
been
will freak the fuck
collaboration
out,
for the
right?
last two and a half
And it's not
years
like
or
it's not
so,
like it's actually
really trying
secret.
to
You can Google
understand
and you can tell
the
that
mechanism that underlying
that it infects your
COVID,
brain.
particularly studying the immune
So it's not
system.
a secret. We did not
And
hide this
these,
movement. If you
6
tell the people in America,
co-authors
hey, by the way,
of this
you have these
paper
cells in your
done
immune
a
cells in your
remarkable
brain,
job of looking at
and
so
the virus
many
infects
different
them, and
aspects of the immune responses
it's entirely
that are
possible that it
distinct
causes
in
you
long-COVID
permanent brain
patients, which
damage.
I'd like to share with you today.
Maybe you shouldn't want to get this virus, and you tell
So
the
the
people that.
study was to look at the immune
Yeah.
signatures
Yeah.
in people who've had COVID over a year
And,
ago. So this is a much later time point
Yeah,
than most studies.
because this is
that have been done to
2023,
date.
and you
We're
have people
looking
that.
at electronic medical records, symptom survey,
You all need to figure out where to assay for the spike protein inside the blood at very low levels. And there's something else, cortisol. For some reason, you know what a cortisol hormone is. You know people who do meditation, transcendental meditation, they say you meditate, your cortisol levels go down. But from long COVID victims, there's for some reason, your cortisol levels are really, really low for a long COVID. So that's one of the main markers of testing for long
proteomics and
COVID.
hormone
Really low
analysis.
cortisol levels.
We've
But
recruited
normally,
4 sets of patients
cortisol
over
makes you fat.
participants. The long
When
COVID
you have
patients are in
cortisol,
purple.
your face
The
gets fat, your
convalescent
neck gets
control
fat,
are in
your
yellow.
stomach gets
These
fat
are the
because it's
people
stress
who
hormone. Cortisol is stress hormone.
acquired acute COVID
The
around
higher
the
your
same
stress
time,
hormones are, you get
fully
fatter you
recovered.
get, and then more heart disease
Healthy
you get.
control in
Normally, you don't want
adults,
cortisol.
are the people who
But in long COVID, for some reason, your cortisol levels are really, really low. Which means, I mean, think about it. Where does your cortisol get made? In your brain. So one of the main possible causes of long COVID is persistent infection of the brain.
Comparison of the long COVID
Possible.
participants
Because
versus
where
the
does your cortisol get made?
control
Right?
in yellow
Who makes your cortisol?
show that the age, sex, and
Where
acute
does-
severity of COVID were as well matched as we could possibly obtain. With the
Adrenal
age
gland, yeah.
group
Where's the
being
adrenal
around
gland?
45, 40 years of age, and sex
Never mind.
female dominated.
I don't know where the
This
adrenal
is
gland is.
typical of all long COVID studies.
Never mind.
This is a female dominant disease.
No, the adrenal
And
gland,
we
cortisol is
focus
made in your
on
adrenal gland.
people
Never
who were
mind.
not
This is
hospitalized,
different than the
so
cortisol in your
majority
brain,
of the
yeah.
people in long COVID and convalescent
So
control
adrenal
groups
gland
were not
possible. Adrenal gland is
hospitalized.
yours. Made out of
We
body
also
organ.
looked at days from acute COVID, and you can see that they're average around 400 days or so.
That's
Again,
interesting.
there was no significant difference
I
between
made a
these two
mistake. That
groups.
makes sense. Anyway, cortisol
I'm
levels.
only going to
Really, really low
highlight the
cortisol
key
levels.
features that were distinct between long COVID versus
And-
non-long COVID groups. The first thing we noticed are that the composition of circulating blood cells are distinct. For instance, the long COVID participants had
So-
elevated levels of non-conventional monocytes, as well as
Interesting.
reduction in circulating conventional dendritic cell type 1, and elevated activated B cells, as well as double negative B cells.
Double negative. I don't know what double negative B cells
We
are. I did
also
not
saw
learn enough English to
reduction
know what
in
double negative B
circulating
cells This
central
one-
memory CD4 T cells,
are.
as well as elevation in exhausted T cells. And
Exhausted
while
T
We
cells.
do not understand what these exhausted T cells are recognizing. This is a sign of a
Do you know
chronic
what-
antigen stimulation
Yeah.
of CD8s and CD4s.
Sorry. Yeah,
Attention-
what's this?
The female
This is-
dominant disease. And we
Long
focus
long
on
COVID is mostly
people
women.
who were not
Re-
hospitalized. So vast majority of
I'm
the people
repeating.
in long
Normally,
COVID
I do
and
not want things over, but
convalescent
you have to
control
listen to
groups
this one.
were not hospitalized. We also looked at days from acute COVID, and you can see that they're average around 400 days or so.
400 days,
Again, there was no significant difference between these two groups.
Okay.
I'm only going to highlight the key features that were distinct
Dr. Carson probably
between long
understand what
COVID
it is.
versus non-long COVID groups. The first thing we noticed are that the composition of circulating blood cells are distinct.
In long COVID,
the long
it does.
COVID participants had elevated levels of non-conventional monocytes,
Non-conventional
as well as
monocytes.
reduction in circulating conventional dendritic cell type 1,
Reduction in
and
conventional
elevated
type
activated
1.
B cells as well as double negative B cells.
Activate B cells and then
We also saw reduction in circulating central memory CD4 T cells,
CD4 T
as well
cells.
as elevation in exhausted T cells. And while we do not understand what these
That's
exhausted
CD.
T cells are recognizing,
Yeah.
this is a sign of
CD4s.
a chronic antigen stimulation of CD8s and CD4s,
Yeah.
potentially driven by the persistent virus, but it could be something else.
Yeah, we don't know yet. I had to watch that part.
Next, we looked at the ability of the T cells to secrete different cytokines. And what we detect here is that the CD4 T cells, for instance, from long COVID patients had elevated levels of IL-2, IL-4, and IL-6. And these are cytokines that
2,
are
interleukin 4, and
normally kept at
interleukin
bay, but the long haulers, as you can
6.
see, some of
They're
them
not
have
really
quite
sure,
elevated levels of these
I don't really
cytokines
know what
from the
interleukin
CD4
does,
T
so.
cells. And what's interesting
What's
is
that?
that the IL-4
What's that? Let me check the second. What does interleukin do? IL forming. Interleukin. It's hard to explain. Sorry. I hope I did not press back. It's hard to explain what interleukin is. And IL, I as in independence and L as in
IL-6
love.
double positive
IL,
CD4 T cells
yeah,
are almost
IL2,
significantly
IL4,
higher
IL6.
in the long COVID patients.
Yeah, elevated.
And I'm going to tell you what these cells might be correlating with a little bit
Okay,
later on.
okay. You have to explain this to.
Looking at the antibody analyses against SARS-CoV-2 antigens, we
IgG,
see
right?
that there is elevated levels of anti-spike antibodies in long COVID patients, accounting for the numbers of vaccines that they received. So all the serology here shown are people that have received 2 doses of mRNA vaccines. And then you can see that the healthy control and the convalescent controls, they all have
It's not the
obviously
vaccine, by the way.
S antibody, but the level in long COVID patients were higher than the control groups.
Interesting.
We next examine the different types of circulating hormones and proteins that are distinct in long COVID patients. And what we found in the upper left panel
That's the adrenal
is that the
gland, right?
cortisol level was the most significantly different between the 3 groups, particularly in long COVID versus non-long COVID.
So you already know the answer. Huh?
You can see on the
Cortisol
bottom
levels.
left that the long COVID
That's the adrenal gland, the way the
participants had
cortisol
about
made it.
half of the
If I remember
cortisol
correctly,
level in
your brain makes
circulation
cortisol
compared to
too.
healthy
So.
control. And normally, cortisol is tightly regulated from the hypothalamus and pituitary adrenal axis.
Right.
And normally, when you have a lower
your brain
level of
regulates your cortisol,
you would
right?
expect a higher level of the ACTH that's secreted.
Oh, what the fuck?
Somehow there's another slide that came on.
Yeah, somebody pressed the wrong button.
My slide back, please.
Yeah. Somebody pressed the wrong button. There we go. It's back. It's back. It's back. It's back. It's back. Sorry. Hey, you're still in the. Sorry. Oh, we'll figure it out. You have like an hour and a half. I mean,
Okay,
Anyway, right.
so as I was saying, the ACTH level is expected to be
I don't know what
elevated
ACTH is,
when
but-
there's low levels of
Yeah.
cortisol. But what we see is that that level was not elevated, suggesting that there may be
What is ACTH?
hypothalamus or pituitary defect in long COVID patients that's not
hypothalamus and pituitary
regulating the level of
different.
cortisol appropriately.
Oh, then that was.
And
Then
then
my
we looked
hypothesis
at
was
the
correct.
time
Then.
of collection to make
I was
sure
just
that
totally
the
guessing, by the way. You
time
know,
during the day
because you
of
heard
blood
me talking
collection
about
is
the
similar
pituitary
between
gland,
the
the
three
last
groups.
one. You thought,
Because
right?
cortisol,
I was literally
as you know,
just
is
guessing.
a diurnal hormone, and it is elevated maximally during the morning, and then it gets the level goes down
I don't
during
know what
the
the
day.
word diurnal.
But we did control for the time of collection, and that was not significant.
Ah, okay. Anyway,
So looking at other factors like latent virus reactivation, what we see is that using the rapid extracellular antigen profiling that was developed by Dr. Aaron Ring's laboratory, we detect elevated levels of IgG against Epstein-Barr virus, GP42, as well
Glycoprotein
as
42.
P23 and early
P23.
antigen diffuse. We also detected elevated levels of anti-VZV-GE, and
I
that
don't know
may
what that
also
is.
be reactivating in the COVID patients over.
well, you got this cabinet meeting is long. It is 1 hour and 8 minutes long.
Looking
You have
at
48
this,
more minutes.
we
please.
actually tested
Don't worry
the
about it.
level of anti-EBV
Yeah, 48 more minutes
antibody
and
in
tell you
three
stuff.
different orthogonal methods. One is using the REAP, the other one is using the linear epitope mapping by Serimmune.
By the way, in
And
year
we detected
2022, we have
particular
a
peptide within
sort of
the
a vaccine for
GP42 that's
HIV.
highlighted in
Like a
pink
protein,
on
sort
the
of.
right figure, and that was
Lenacapavir.
elevated in the long COVID participants compared to the others. And as I was saying before, the IL-4, IL-6 double positive CD4 levels are correlating with the GP42 or GP23 specific antibody levels in a positive correlation,
Huh.
potentially indicating that these antibodies are elevated in these patients because of reactivation of EBV, and that may be affecting the ability of T cells to become Th1 cells. It's well known that EBV interferes with the development of Th1 cells in order to
Oh.
preserve the latency and reactivation.
Yes,
What about
that is
autoimmunity?
symbiotic
We
behavior of a
looked
virus.
at
That is
the
impressive.
antibody levels during the acute severe COVID and found a diverse functional autoantibodies at that point. However, looking at long COVID patients,
That is
we
impressive.
did not see significantly different levels or the numbers of autoantibody reactivity against human exoproteins,
Okay.
suggesting that they might not be playing much of a role during at least this late phase of long COVID.
So that fourth
Using
one must be rare. That's
thousands of
good.
data
Autoantibody
set that we
on COVID is
collected
rare.
from
So.
COVID and long COVID participants, we applied machine learning algorithm to analyze whether immune features alone can distinguish people with long COVID, and indeed it was able to do so with 96% accuracy.
Oh, wow.
When we looked at the various
We have
different
auto-
factors
we have,
that contributed to
We
this
have machine learning in the future.
prediction,
We have artificial
autoantibodies
intelligence in the
had
future.
the
So
least contribution,
it's pretty cool.
whereas antibody against the COVID proteins, as well as EBV and cytokines and flow cytometry features, really contributed to the ability of our ability to predict long COVID from just looking at the immune features.
That is so cool.
Looking
I
at
can't imagine we
the
can afford
overall
this for
features that
everybody,
are
yeah.
associated either negatively or positively with long COVID, we see that the cortisol level is again the most significant feature that's lower in long COVID patients, along with things like circulating central memory cells. Whereas
There's
what's
so much,
higher in
yeah.
long COVID appears to be the activated B cells.
I mean, this
EBV
slide, you have to
reactive
wait. You have to wait
antibodies,
until
and the exhausted
August 9,
CD4s and
2022
CD8s.
before somebody will make this slide.
So taking
You
all
can
this
actually measure long COVID
into
from the
consideration,
immune.
as well as many other studies that have been published to date, what we think now is that the viral reservoir hypothesis is certainly
Most likely,
one of
yeah.
the most likely scenario of what's happening in long COVID.
In most long COVID.
Because of the fact that we're seeing this sort of continuously elevating levels of antibodies, and there are numerous reports demonstrating antigens as well as RNA in multiple different organs months after the acute phase
That's
of
it.
COVID.
Then that means that
We
she
also
found the
think
answer
that
then. The most likely
reactivation
answer.
of latent viruses such as EBV
But it's, all the
may
other
be
ones still do
contributing
cause
to
it
the
because we
disease.
actually see it.
Now, none of these
Even the
features
Epstein-Barr
we don't
virus,
know right now whether
autoantibody,
they're driving the
and
disease
immune system,
or they're
so-
just a biomarker of having long COVID. But that's something that we'd like to figure
So that
out
would
with
mean
further studies.
viral reservoir is the most likely cause of
Autoimmunity,
long
as far
COVID.
as exoproteome reactive autoantibodies are concerned, we don't see a significant feature in our own studies, but obviously there may be T cells or other types of antibodies that are involved.
That makes a lot of
And
sense.
tissue
though.
damage is something
T-cell
that
exhaustion,
is
when you-
becoming more and
T
more
cells
clear
not
from
exhausted,
many other
repeated
studies. We did not
antigen
do
exposure means
with that
your
in
body's
this
not
particular
clearing.
preprint.
That makes so much sense.
So I'd like to thank all
Well,
the
thank you.
people that
It was
were,
the most likely
involved in
main cause,
the,
right?
data that
For
I was
long
able to
COVID.
present to you today.
The one that you will
Many
have to
of
go
the,
after in the
first
future.
authorships I have already been able
Somehow
to
this virus is not
highlight,
being cleared by
but
the
David
human body
Petrino
by
is
some
an
people.
equal contributor
About
to
approximately
the
8%
study
of the
that I
people.
was able to present today.
8%
As well as
of
we
human
have other studies that,
American
that are
population, human
ongoing,
population.
such as the Yale
We are
Medicine
not clearing
study
this
that we're
virus,
carrying
so
out with
somehow you have to figure out how to do it.
Krumholtz
So,
group,
no idea.
and immune profiling.
Because even the
data
vaccine
analysis
is
team
not
at
helping
Yale,
your body clear it,
Rain,
which means
Russell Mezitov, David Van Dyke, Wade Schultz,
means
and
some
Sarah
parts of
Mutin
your
are
organ
also
is
a critical
immune
part of
privilege, and
the
then
study
your
that I
immune
was
system
able to
cannot
present today. So thank
clear
you
the
so much
virus.
for your attention.
You know, I mean, main culprit brain, your brain. I mean, because your white blood cells do not fry your brain.
Great, thank you so much, Akiko. That was really fascinating,
Yeah. Anyway,
and great to hear from you. The latest
difference between
research
children
that
and
you've been
adults
doing.
and long COVID.
We
And
now
Dr.
have
Iwasaki already told
Dr.
you in your
Elizabeth
future.
Whitaker. She's the honorary clinical senior lecturer in pediatric infectious diseases and
mentioned.
immunology at Imperial College London, and also
Children
the
cannot
pediatric
tell
infectious
you if
diseases
they're
and
sick.
immunology consultant at St.
They don't
Mary's
feel
Hospital
good.
in London. So
Children do not know how to
welcome,
verbalize they don't
and
feel
looking
good.
forward
So,
to your talk, Elizabeth.
yeah, Mr. President, we have a problem because if children are sick, they don't complain. You know, children do not complain when they're sick, and they just sort of try to take it, and then they take the suffering. You know, most children don't, and then if children do not feel good, they do not verbalize that they don't feel good. You know, Mr. President, I don't know. I mean, I had to Google what the pituitary gland does inside. I mean, if you affect the pituitary gland of children, you would affect their sexual maturity, their puberty, and we might have a generation of children that 8% with misfunctioning sex maturation would be a problem, right? Anyway, they're waiting. I don't know. What are you doing?
There's no money for you on it. This is a blank debit card.
Yeah, you want the payment. I know. You're still trying to do
Elizabeth, can you hear us at all?
I can hear you. It's still August 24th, 2025. I'm feeding information.
Apologies. It seems like we have some technical difficulties, so
There are January,
yes, really sorry about that, but we're
2000.
trying to hear you now.
This is
yes, we can hear you now.
Dr. Liz Whitaker,
Slides
difference
that,
between children and
you can
adults
see.
in
Yes,
long
right.
COVID.
Yes.
And you
Thank
probably
you so
should
much
hear
for
it. I
the
probably need to
pictures.
hear
And they're
this.
moving okay?
Yeah. Nice to meet you. My name's Andrew. My name's Andrew.
Are they moving?
I can hear you.
Yes, okay.
Host.
So I'm a pediatrician.
I'm in.
Established and set up the long COVID services in London for children and young people under the age of 18. And
Yeah, so little
I
information
also
about children, so-
am an immunologist and have worked on COVID over the last 3 years, and prior to that tuberculosis. And
Cool.
really what I wanted to highlight in hopefully the next 10 to 12 minutes was just
One second,
how
one second.
different an experience children
One second.
have compared to
One second.
adults. So this
One second. It is August 24th, Sunday, 2012. Still, I'm going to put you on my TV. There you go. You're on my TV. You're on my TV now. Here we go again. The president has about
The virus-induced recession will see
40 minutes.
65,000 deaths.
Shit.
Alcohol.
the graph on the left is
Okay.
very different to
The top-
the experience.
You know when it is. This is May
It's what we saw at the
2020.
beginning of the pandemic, and which has held true from the very
Yeah.
beginning. which is that children
Dr.
are a
Whittaker,
teeny
okay,
tiny
London.
proportion of those who are unwell or admitted to hospital and thankfully who die due to COVID, because they respond very differently to this virus to those who are of adult age. And what you can see here in this very
Interesting marrow.
pie chart is that
Yellow
the vast
marrow,
majority
marrow,
of children
red
experience
marrow,
asymptomatic
immune
or
system.
mild symptoms when they are infected with SARS-CoV-2, and a really tiny proportion either have moderate symptoms or end up in hospital. And then about 6 to 8 weeks to the peak of the pandemic, we started to notice this post-inflammatory condition called PIMS or MIS-C, which I'll talk about in more detail in a moment, which is a really profound inflammatory process that affects a very tiny proportion of children.
Yeah,
It's probably quite important to understand in terms of what is the pathogenesis, what are the differences, what
I don't know.
drives this
I never
pathology that we
found
see in
out.
children
You don't have to teach me.
as well as in adults. And of course, in addition to
Ah! What the fuck?
And for the sake of Americans' health
Mm.
and well-being,
Sounds gone. Sounds gone.
you know, I mentioned some of the physical numbers of keeping our country closed down. But what we have here today with us, our Assistant Secretary for Substance Abuse,
Teaching
Mental Health
innovation.
and Substance Abuse, Dr. Ellie McCants-Capps, who's a psychiatrist.
Ah!
The first ever psychiatrist to lead SAMHSA. And
Sure.
Sorry,
Else.
lost sound for a second.
Presentation, if there's an issue. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you're back.
There we go.
Not my fault. I
Did,
didn't fault.
did you hear any of that?
No, didn't hear it. Do it again, please, doctor. Say it again, because I missed about.
Yes, we did. We did hear.
Did you hear?
It just
Much of it,
dropped it
so-
overnight.
You heard it? I didn't hear it because I had to move.
Where did I get to?
Okay,
I don't
so-
know. I mean, I didn't hear it. I,
I
mean,
was. You can hear me, okay?
I can hear you now.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
I had just been explaining how
Yeah.
children had had a different presentation to adults with mostly very mild
Brooke
infections.
Rowland, you're
And obviously
Agriculture
some interesting
Secretary.
things that are worth
Agriculture
exploring both in the
Secretary.
context of severity of disease
In
and
the
also
second term.
post-COVID syndrome or long COVID. And that's the kind of the other post-infectious sequelae known as PIMS or MIS-C.
Oh, we got Scott
And what I
Turner.
was then just explaining, and I'm
Hey,
not going to
you
go
are
into
the
details,
housing secretary.
particularly in the interest of
Secretary
time,
Scott
is
Turner.
that children
You're
have
the
very different
housing
responses
secretary.
to stimuli in early life anyway, and this is related
That's
to
so cool.
their ability to develop
I actually remember your
tolerance,
name.
to train their immune
Secretary,
system
Secretary,
to protect them from infection, but also to protect them from having an excessive inflammatory response much of the time. And so we know that their immune responses in the mucosa in particular are quite different, but also their specific immune responses to infections are quite different.
Yeah, children
and
have
this
a very,
is
very different immune response
probably
to this
related to
virus
the
for some
fact that
reason.
they then manage to clear or manage the SARS-CoV-2 virus very differently when it enters the body, so that it's less likely to drive that profound inflammation that results in severe disease in adults.
Yeah, I am
In addition,
aware
they have
that
different numbers of
children have different immune
receptors,
systems
their
than
cytokines
adults.
and their T
Red
cells
bone
are
marrow,
really
red bone
fundamental.
marrow, yellow bone
And in
marrow.
addition, and this is also
Children
probably
have
very
different immune
relevant for long
systems than
COVID,
adults, and,
their endothelial
I don't know why.
cells, which are the cells that line your blood vessels, and their blood vessels are much healthier than in adults. And so adults, through lifestyle choices, including diet and smoking and just age,
I know.
often have a little bit of underlying inflammation
Alexis
that's
might be
occurring
smoking.
in their vessels
I
all
don't know.
the time. And when you introduce pro-inflammatory cytokines in response to an infection such as SARS-CoV-2, that can become excessive very quickly. Whereas in young children or young people, those endothelial cells are in a much better condition. And that probably explains as well some of the reason why adults are much more likely to experience severe disease. And not all children avoided severe disease and death, unfortunately. And it was really important that we understood why. And so we spent quite a bit of time exploring those children who were admitted to hospital and died due to SARS-CoV-2 in the first year of the pandemic. And in particular identified that there is a particular risk group, and actually what they're dying of is very different, or what makes them very sick is very different to what we see in adults. So they're not getting a hyperinflammatory immune response, but often they've got really complex underlying health needs, which means that the reserve is different. So actually they get very unwell with COVID, but they could equally become very unwell with influenza or any of the other viruses that circulate in the winter, rather than seeing a big proportion of young people who present with adult-type disease, which is very uncommon. And so children have a very different spectrum of responses to the SARS-CoV-2 infection. And I've tried to put that pictorially here, that following infection, the vast majority of children experience really just asymptomatic or mild illness. We see a tiny proportion of severe disease and sometimes adult-type disease, particularly in obese adolescents, but actually just severe illness because of underlying comorbidity in other children. And then we start going down the spectrum of really interesting post-infectious inflammation, either alongside respiratory illness or more commonly 4 to 6 weeks later. And we describe this as multisystem inflammatory syndrome, as it's known in America.
Yeah, multisystem
Pediatric inflammatory multisystem syndrome. And basically what that means is that your body is very inflamed and has an unusual response to the virus, becomes too inflamed and makes you quite unwell, particularly if it affects your heart. And I've put at the bottom here, we can't forget that proportion of children who develop a post-COVID condition, of which there are many different types, and I think that's something I'll explore in a moment. So in summary, this post-infectious sequelae, which occurs 4 to 6 weeks later, in actually a very small proportion of children, is very significant. These children are extremely unwell. About a third to 40% end up in intensive care with what we call shock, so that they're so unwell that their blood pressure drops and their heart's unable to sustain a good supply for the rest of the body. And they have a very distinct picture of inflammation in their blood, which is quite similar, interestingly, to what we see in severe disease in adults. But because it's a post-infectious phenomenon, they usually have developed antibodies already. It affects the gut predominantly, as well as the heart, but it's very multi-system throughout the body, with changes in the skin and significant rashes and red eyes. And this condition is probably the bit of COVID that's been explored from a research perspective most thoroughly in children. But actually, there's been a real paucity of research.
Multi-system inflammatory disease for children.
Because, as I said at the beginning, they've made up such a tiny proportion of children. That is problematic, because actually by studying the extreme ends of the spectrum of age, you can often get answers to all ages. And it's something that's important for pediatrics. This is one very small study looking at follow-up of that cohort of children who've got that post-infectious inflammatory condition. And this is from Great Ormond Street in London, where I work. And it just shows you that...
Brief the president if the whole room can't hear me. I'm pretty sure the whole room can't hear me.
How many different symptoms all the children had at presentation, how they...
It's still August 24th, 2025, Brooke and Scott.
And actually all the things
brief the president whatever you hear from
they would have persistent heart problems.
Try to remember
were very reassuringly normal. But interestingly, these children do develop persistent gastro symptoms with mild CNS abnormalities,
Housing and Urban Development
fatigue, all things that are very familiar to people who see children with long COVID. And it really begs the question as to whether or not long COVID in children is related to missing claims in children. This is just a picture from some of our other presentations.
Children don't complain.
To anyone who's been studying long COVID, it causes a myriad of symptoms which affect literally every body part, multi-system, as you might say. And I guess the question is, how common is long COVID in children? So this is data from the Office for National Statistics in the UK, looking at symptoms at 12 weeks and 12 months by age. And again, what we can see is that although these numbers are not to be dismissed, they are much lower in children and young people than they are in adults, and that children and young people are also more likely to improve or have resolution of those persistent symptoms over time. It's actually very difficult to get a handle on how big a problem it is, because there's a lot of difference in how people measure symptoms, and it's often self-reported.
And that's the thing, children do not complain.
Control groups.
If people feel sick, they don't know to tell somebody they don't feel good.
This is just something that's happened as a
children
result
don't
of
complain.
lockdown.
If children has long COVID, they don't tell their parents, they just suffer through it.
Way to try and include a control group of children who didn't have SARS-CoV-2 infection and found quite a high prevalence of persistent symptoms. But interestingly, they found that in those children who didn't have a SARS-CoV-2 infection either. And so actually...
Elizabeth, would you like us to move to one of your slides? Because we just noticed that they're not moving ahead. So if you tell us what number it is, we can just move
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I think it's because... Yeah, could you go to... I'm sorry about that. Slide number 10?
Sure.
Oh, I don't get to read the slide.
I need to unshare and go to the other session.
I can tell them.
That's okay. You can just, if you want.
There, that's the right one. That's
professionals of this, right?
If you'd like, you can just say next slide and I'll say that.
I think.
Oh no, this information probably would have appreciated it in the past.
So this is just the prevalence from a systematic review showing you that this little dot here, I think this is bigger for everybody else, is the clock study. But interestingly, although there were more persistent symptoms in children who had a positive SARS-CoV-2 infection, there was a very high rate of persistent symptoms in those who didn't. And what's different about those children who'd had a positive infection is that they're much more likely to experience multiple symptoms both at the time of infection initially, but also persisting. And are there predisposing factors? I think every parent wants to know this, is what do I need to worry about? And I think that's unhelpful is that the vast majority of these children and young people were completely healthy prior to developing persistent symptoms, but that some particular groups of infections, such as allergies and respiratory illness, previous chronic fatigue, and then some neurodevelopmental diagnoses such as tics and obsessive compulsive disorder and even autism are more commonly seen in those children who experience persistent symptoms. And there's lots of theories about why that is. Is it because that as a group of young people, are they more in tune or more sensitive to symptoms that they're experiencing, but also have they challenges in terms of their emotional and mental well-being to help to self-manage those symptoms, which makes them become overwhelming very quickly. And what's really interesting is that there's also a family history component to the children and young people who present with persistent symptoms. Next slide, please. This is just a very brief look at that in our clock study, just showing that those children who had persistent symptoms were nearly twice as likely to have parents with persistent symptoms than those who didn't have them. And this was independent of all the things that we could correct for. And it's really interesting when we're trying to understand the pathogenesis of the condition to think about why that might be. Is it because they've had a different exposure to the virus, like a much bigger viral load? Are there genetic factors that make them more predisposed to an autoimmunity, as Akiko mentioned, or perhaps something like that? Is there bias so that if the parent who's got symptoms is more likely to encourage their child to take part in a research study, and so that kind of desire to help because you are also affected? Or are there psychosocial factors within the family that again make it difficult to manage symptoms that might
Dr. Whitaker is absolutely right.
I think what came out of this is that the adult and children's services are run very separately from each other. But there may well be a need for families in order to provide better care for these families for whom both the children and parents are experiencing
difficult to measure the
symptoms. That's something we're trying to work towards in London.
So parents will
Next
have
slide,
to,
please.
parents sometimes.
So this is slightly weird. I had a slide explaining the range of patients that we see in the long COVID service for children and young people in London, and it's really diverse. We see functional gastrointestinal disorders, we see rashes and mast cell dysfunction, we see desaturation with poor perfusion, we see a lot, and the vast majority of what we see is chronic fatigue-like syndromes with headaches and really
neurodivergence and low mood and
difficulties with getting around. We see a lot of dysfunctional breathing and dysautonomia. But I wanted to make the point is that that's not new to anyone who's been reading about this topic. But what worries me is they all fall under the umbrella of long COVID. And this has two challenges. One is there ever going to be a single diagnostic test if we're describing a group of different conditions? But also there is unlikely to be a one-size-fits-all.
He's the housing secretary.
So we have to be really cautious when we talk about this condition to remember
is he secretary
that it's
now?
probably multiple different conditions, and they do need careful phenotyping, both to try and understand what's causing them as well as what may make them better.
He's been doing most of the stuff about the children, so. Mitch McConnell.
And again, this is basically what I had done at the bottom of that slide I showed you before, although maybe you missed it, was I was talking about the spectrum of illness after SARS-CoV-2 infection. And I still think the vast majority of children and young people experience mild or asymptomatic infection with no sequelae. However, we do see significant post-inflammatory conditions in terms of MIS-C and PIMS, but we're also recognizing multiple different conditions from a post-COVID perspective and long COVID, and different clusters of types of conditions that children and young people present with. And what we don't know is, and you've heard a really lovely talk about the different types of causes of these conditions, whether there are endothelial problems, platelet dysfunction, whether there are autoantibodies, whether it's due to gut viral persistence. And again, what it's really not clear to me is whether we're actually doing a disservice to these conditions by giving them one name, but also what I don't understand when there's clearly not a difference after SARS-CoV-2 infection, why it's so hard to get funding for this condition for research in children and young people. We've written multiple grants which we've really struggled to get funding for, and I recognise that children are a smaller group, but actually it's really important to get it right in early life. Next slide, please.
Well, hopefully president, I mean,
So
maybe
this
we'll
very
talk.
briefly is
Multi-system
the
inflammatory
area that
syndrome in
has
children.
managed to get good research
You're gonna
funding
see it
is
now.
the
Multi-system
very
inflammatory syndrome in
infectious
children.
condition
This
we
is
see
May,
in
right?
kids
You already
outside.
know.
And what's really interesting, this is a very busy slide, but the main message really is that the pathogenesis and the hypotheses are not dissimilar to those that were described earlier by Akiko. So we think that the viral persistence may play a role, particularly in the gut. We don't know if autoantibodies may also be quite important. And the superantigen hypothesis seems to be gaining less traction at the moment. There's some lovely data from the US that's coming out about the viral persistence driving something else. But actually, we see a
April,
lot
first
of herpes
diagnosed in April
reactivation
2000,
as
so
well
you already know.
because they've lost immune
So you
control
just
when they're
said
very pro-inflammatory.
in last month.
Next slide,
You already
please.
know about it.
Um,
So
and
last
I think
month
what
you
we
already
need
knew
to
so.
do is try and get the same amount of resource and research into other post-COVID sequelae that are affecting children and young people.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
June 2022 is about when it's June 2022 is when COVID is essentially gone. It's still circulating. It still exists. People still get it. And we're still
I was going to
about it.
talk about the fact that what we're doing
June 2022,
in our
June
setting
pretty
was working with colleagues in the US with the NIH-funded PREVAIL study, but also
Pretty
the
much, give or
DIAMOND
take.
study, which is a European study.
Because
this is
Omicron
not
is the last
specifically
variant.
funded for long COVID, but because of the
They're in January 23rd,
investigators on
2023.
the
They
group
already
have
know.
agreed to include both
There's
children
no
and
more. There's no
with
more.
post-COVID, as well as
main
people who
COVID.
don't have
It's either
connectivity for the
2025.
reasons.
It's
And what
August
we're trying to
24,
understand is there a
2025.
diagnostic signature that we
there's
can
no
develop
major
to pick out this group. And as I
COVID.
already
We don't wear
mentioned, this
masks
would be to be
anymore.
very well phenotyped
Very few people wear
group, so
masks.
we
Some
could
people
understand
do.
exactly
Some
what
people
each
do.
cluster would look like from a
But
diagnostic
people don't wear masks
perspective.
at Costco
But we'd
anymore.
also
They
be
don't
able
wear
to
masks at
compare
malls.
it to different
Everybody's
types
not
of
vaccinated
COVID,
anymore,
so
and
mild disease, severe disease,
some
as
people
well as
still
those
wear them.
post-inflammatory sequelae I talked about. And we would then be able to understand whether this is in the
I mean,
same
I haven't gotten
spectrum, or
vaccinated
whether there's a
since-
very different condition going on for post-COVID syndrome. Next slide, please.
And that's what we want. It was tough.
2022.
Great heart.
The last time I was vaccinated was 2022. Andrew was vaccinated
And
in
I know that
2022.
Judith is going to
Andrew
talk
hasn't
about this in a
been
moment, but the
vaccinated.
reality and the expectation of the management of post-COVID syndrome is that we
Expectation
do
is
not meet each
reality.
other. I think that because this is such a debilitating condition and people are without hope, they come to a service and think that there's going to be some kind of magic fix. But actually, we have very little to offer because
Yeah.
we don't yet
We don't know how to
understand
fix it,
pathogenesis,
yeah.
and therefore being able to give specific treatments is very challenging. Next slide, please.
We still don't know. Even in the future, we still don't.
Biggest deals ever made. Actually,
Long COVID.
And again, this slide was showing you some of the treatments that are available either in research studies for adults or that some people are using without evidence, and that includes things like anticoagulation therapy, in particular heparin, and
That's not gonna work.
steroids, hyperbaric oxygen,
That's
and
not gonna work.
amongst others. And again, I bring back to this point that long COVID is an umbrella term for multiple conditions, and there is no evidence in children to support what the pathogenesis is, or whether any of these treatments, which all have side effects, could potentially cause harm.
Yeah.
And so it's really crucial that we get funding to do appropriate studies to look at outcomes from
what Dr.
treatment
Akiko
rather than
said in the
treating
future,
therapy, because the
If
benefit
it's
risk
the one that's
isn't clear at this time.
the long COVID
Next
is
slide,
called for
please.
autoimmune, you would need B cell regulation, basically steroid therapy, like immunosuppressor therapy.
And this is just
And the
a
one that's
slide at a table
viral-
showing that we have to be really cautious all
Antivirals.
the time in
Like
pediatrics
new
to remember
antivirals or
that
something.
actually it's okay to extrapolate from adults if we are confident that the conditions are the same. But
Because
it's very
Paxlovid
dangerous to
Paxlovid
extrapolate
is,
from adults
and there's
if we
another.
don't think the conditions are the same. And I think that we've seen so
Sorry,
far in the pandemic that children have
Alexis'
a very different
bracelet.
response to SARS-CoV-2
Oh, my
virus,
jewelry
both in
company.
terms of the acute illness, but also the sequelae. We very rarely see MIS-C in adults.
Alexis
It's very
has a
much
jewelry
pediatric
company.
condition, and we have to be cautious to
Sells
understand
jewelry.
whether post-COVID or long COVID
Buy
is
with
the
a
same
jewelry
in adults
company.
and children before we start using treatments that might have some value in adults but may be detrimental in children. Next slide, please. I think that's my next slide.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dr. Wood. My name's Andrew, by the way. I'm Taiwanese American, living in California.
So just to summarize, there was a massive
Taiwanese
clinical
American.
overlap in persistent symptoms after pregnancy and long COVID. And we have seen some really similar hypotheses, but we have to be really cautious about how we extrapolate from adult data for long COVID.
I'm watching these out of
really,
order.
one of the
Talk to
biggest
you
challenges is
from the
getting
beginning
funding to do
in June,
pathogenesis
so
studies in children
sorry about that.
to understand
August
the condition,
24th,
but also to make sure
2025.
that
Good
we
news,
use
Mr.
the right
President,
treatments
your
for these
brain
kids.
seems to be fine.
And there are many people on my next slide.
Not so
that
much
I
about
thank.
President
I'm going to
Biden's
end
brain.
quickly because otherwise
President
we'll run
Biden's
out of
brain
time
is
for
a little
discussion.
fried.
Thank you, yours. Thank you.
President Biden's brain is a little fried. He's mostly okay.
It could happen before June 21st.
What are you talking about? What's happening?
They're doing what we're doing.
Great,
Hey,
thank you so
President
much,
Biden's
Elizabeth.
brain is a
That
little
was really
fried.
interesting. I
Andrew's
found it
brain
really
seems so
interesting what you
okay.
said about
I mean, how would
the
I
fact
know,
that
right? I
you
mean,
know,
my brain's
we can't necessarily do the same treatments
Andrew's
that
brain
we know
seems to
of
be
for
okay.
adults, for children. So
I have
that was
problems with
really,
working memory sometimes, but
interesting to know. So now we're moving on to
took me
Judith,
forever to remember Scott
Judith
Turner's
Brookfeld,
name.
who is the professor of infectious diseases at
I just
Karolinska
probably remember names
Institute and
since
senior
junior high
consultant
school,
in
so
infectious diseases
that might not be
at
a result of
Karolinska
COVID.
University Hospital.
Since junior high
I'm
school,
very
I have probably
interested
remembered
hearing
names. I
what
do
you
not
have to say.
remember anybody's name from junior high
Thank you.
school.
Bye.
Except for Eli, I think. Andy, I think. And
I just
Jennifer, I
can
remember
have
Jennifer. I
the
remember Jennifer was
slide, a
perverted.
little bit larger, or is
Jennifer
it
was like a
maximum?
look at 8th grade, just licking
So,
licking
for the
vagina.
audience,
That's
they'll be
great.
seeing the slide in a
Naughty,
large
naughty
scale.
little girl.
Okay, but
Yeah.
for me it's
You
like
remember
that.
Jennifer?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm
fine.
pretty sure it's Jennifer.
So thank you very much for the introduction,
Not sure.
and I can.
I
move
threw away all
slides,
my.
I hope.
I threw. I'm gonna throw away all my junior high books
I'm going to talk
and
about patient
high school
care and
yearbooks
also
in
optimum
this year in
trials.
2020 because
I
my heart's gonna be
agree
broken.
with
I was breaking my heart and
regarding
I got so
the
angry. I
also
ripped apart
in
my
adults.
junior high.
This is just to introduce
high
you
school
to key
yearbooks
members
and,
of our post-COVID-19
I don't have
team,
any.
which should be
I do not have names in my house.
actually organized
I cannot find
almost
them.
3 years ago. So it's myself, Mikael Drevno, who is a very
That's one thing I regret
chest
about
physician,
2020.
Michael
Being a part of my
Stolberg,
junior high.
cardiologist, and also Molly Megan Bonner,
I do not have
who
any
is
of my
a
yearbooks
physiotherapist and leading the
They're
health
gone.
professional research
Might as
project
well, you
that
know.
is very
Leave
closely
the past in the
integrated with
past.
our own
Leave the
research
past in the
projects.
past.
So regarding acute COVID-19, we
Somebody else,
understood
like kids.
from very fast actually that
Shit, yeah.
there was a potential for long-term sequelae.
That's kidneys, that's a
from what we
pancreas,
saw
I can
in
look
the
at a
acute
pancreas and
phase.
see it.
And we
Brain,
knew
lungs,
also quite
heart,
quickly that SARS-CoV-2, the virus,
gastrointestinal,
enters
blood vessel.
cells via the
Yeah.
special receptor, AC2 receptor,
It's easy-
and
it's-
these
it's easy.
receptors are represented in multiple organs.
That's the reason. I mean, you
And
already know.
so
it's
it
just,
was
you know,
not really a surprise that we
Yeah.
would see
Not
long-term
really a
sequelae.
surprise for Andrew,
And
too.
this was
Andrew
also
found
our
out in the past
hypothesis
when I was
when we
Googling.
started our follow-up clinic. Let's see. Yeah.
ACE2
So,
is everywhere, you know, in
Long
your
COVID,
body.
as Elizabeth pointed out, is an umbrella.
I'm President Trump, I mean, do you want to...
A syndrome which contains various.
You want to
phenotypes
alter time?
based on
Because
what
I
we've
don't know
seen
if
in
you
the
guys
adult cohorts.
I mean, just have Dr. Anthony
The
Fauci in
long
your
COVID
past go on
patient
TV and
is
say,
typically multisymptomatic,
the
and
binding
that is
receptor
why
is
this is
ACE2, it's called
a challenge for
angioconverting
healthcare
enzyme 2.
professionals,
And
because we
angioconverting
are
enzyme 2 is everywhere in your
okay,
body.
it's something. Thank you. If you
Ovaries,
press full on the
vagina,
upper right-hand
testes.
corner- Aha, okay,
Like-
great.
Even the blood
Oh,
vessel inside your
fantastic.
penis. This is the best. No, right? Like,
So
this is the best part that they
this
didn't
was
do.
a challenge for.
if you
for
tell
us.
men,
We are
hey, by the
organ
way, if you get this
specialists,
virus,
maybe
your
not
penis
for
might
disease
stop, or you might not be able to get an
disease.
erection anymore.
But anyway, this
People would have taken it
was,
as seriously.
difficult for us.
Yeah,
and,
that is actually one of the things
actually,
that people are
borrowed
complaining
a
of.
fridge magnet
Some men
kind
get
of
this
that I
virus
got
and they
for my
never have an
children for
erection.
Christmas
That's
in
uncorrectable with
2020.
like
where I say
Viagra
in
and
Swedish radio
Cialis
news
doesn't
that we
correct
know
them. They
essentially
just never have an
nothing at
erection
all,
ever again for the rest of their
you know,
life.
on programs.
You don't need a penis anyway. No, who
you
needs a
can see,
penis, man? No.
No, we know
Who needs a
nothing,
penis?
and my children
Nobody
thought
needs a
that was very
penis. Who
funny.
needs ovaries?
I said, but
Anyway,
it was
having a
true.
little fun with them.
Fortunately, regarding trials and
That's why I was so
studies,
pissed at
there were
Anthony Fauci.
several
Why didn't you
very
tell
large
people that,
registry
hey, don't get
studies
this
of
virus, your
long-term
penis might
effects,
stop working. I guarantee you,
initially
everybody will
in
be taking it seriously.
the pandemic, and that was important
Do it.
because this was very much
endothelial cells
discussed
in your
not
blood
just in
vessels,
Sweden,
endothelial
but I
cells.
know also
In your penis and your capillaries.
in a global
It affects your
perspective.
capillary cells and damages
Is
the
there
capillaries.
something called
I mean, your penis is basically full of capillaries. That's why I'm not the penis directly.
imagining. But several large studies comparing hospitalized versus
Psychiatric
non-hospitalized
dementia,
COVID-19
psychosis,
patients
stress,
and also
depression, anxiety,
comparing
respiratory complications,
long-term
death,
sequelae to influenza and other respiratory infections showed an increased risk, as you can see here, for both psychiatric
it's gotta be that.
diagnoses,
Cortisol and then
dementia,
serotonin
sleep
levels.
disorders,
Serotonin.
stress,
I forget what the
respiratory
serotonin
complications, and so forth. And Ziad Al-Ali is a
Serotonin.
very good both colleague and researcher, and he has analyzed the U.S. Veteran Affairs
Serotonin
Registry
reduction in post-COVID.
from many angles.
Serotonin and cortisol
He's a
reduction
nephrologist,
in
and
post-long
therefore
COVID.
they also looked
That's
at
gotta be your brain.
the kidney function over time. So in the top of the figure, you can see the normal aging.
Those therapeutics are very
kidneys,
important.
and then you
Paxlovid
see
is so
various
important.
lines where
Paxlovid doesn't come
non-hospitalized
until-
patients with COVID-19, their
When
kidneys
is
age
Paxlovid?
faster than they should. Even more so in hospitalized patients without acute kidney injury, and worst outcome
What the
is for
president talking about
hospitalized
therapy
patients
session?
with acute kidney injury and dialysis.
Full approval, May 25th,
And
2023.
this is a very important finding because
2023, May
this
25th,
is
Paxlovid.
a silent
Emergency authorization popular,
long-term
right?
effect. We normally
You gotta wait until, you
check
gotta wait 4
kidney
years for
function
the
in
therapeutics.
non-hospitalized patients over time.
Sucks.
Numerous studies,
Vaccines in
very
December,
large
December,
cohorts have shown
December
also an increased risk
2020.
of both type 1 and
But
type 2
the
diabetes.
Paxlovid,
Possibly as a direct
the treatment is
injury
very,
to the
very, very
pancreas.
useful.
More about generals, I said. We do.
Yeah.
Also, again,
So there in
the other
January
one, his group
2023,
have shown
you
that
got another
with
4 months for the
additional
US before we got
COVID-19
Paxlovid around
reinfection, there is an
therapeutics.
increased risk of long-term sequelae, and this is important, of course, regarding prevention.
They're already talking about Paxlovid, so that
vaccination.
means
Another
Paxlovid
important
gets
finding,
initial
and this is a
revolution.
preprint,
The emergency
also from the
authorization
same
much earlier.
Veteran Affairs Registry,
But,
shows that antiviral treatment in the initial phase, acute phase of COVID-19, with Paxlovid significantly reduces the risk of 10 out of 12 long-term sequelae, post-acute hospital
There we go.
care, and also death.
December
And this reduction was
2021,
seen both in
Paxlovid has had
vaccinated and
emergency
unvaccinated
authorization.
de novo infection
Full
and
authorization
reinfection.
is
So this is
in
very
May
important
2020, but
regarding-
emergency
and also
authorization
may
is
point
in
to the
December
fact that
2021,
viral,
and you will absolutely
persistence
need it.
may be a player
Trust me.
in this,
Because in November
in
2021,
the long COVID
welcome
syndrome.
to Omicron. It's like, if you think COVID's bad, meet COVID,
Some studies
big brother
also regarding
Omicron.
follow-up.
The most
These are
contagious
not registered
variant in the
studies,
history
it's,
of human.
prospective follow-up studies.
Doubling time of 1.2 days to
similar to our
1.5
own
days.
studies,
I already told us
where up to a 2-year follow-up of
The entire
from
country of
Wuhan,
China
the
gets infected in
epicenter
December
of
2021.
the pandemic.
I mean, in
Shows
single
that
months of
survivors
December,
with long COVID
the
symptoms
entire
at
country
2
of China
years
gets
had lower
infected.
health-related
Like
quality of
1.4
life,
billion people
worse
all get
exercise
infected with
capacity, more
COVID.
mental health
In 1 month.
abnormalities,
That is
and
how
also
contagious
increased
Omicron is.
healthcare use
And,
after discharge.
they think China's like, oh, we have zero COVID issue. Nobody has COVID. Look
But
at
you
our
can see that
economy.
this
Our
was
economy is
not a
great.
very
Technically
sick
true.
cohort.
But they are all going to
1%
get COVID in 1 month.
required
Literally.
mechanical ventilation.
And
during their
I have no idea how many people died.
In the UK,
They have
there was a
vaccines.
12-month
November 2021, they probably vaccinated as much people as they wanted,
and here
but
about one-third
if the entire country of China gets COVID in 1 single month,
and here
the
you
death
can see
rate
that the risk
is
factors for poor
gonna be
recovery
interesting.
was
They do not publish
female
it.
sex,
They don't
and
tell
this
us,
has
no.
been consistently
you all,
shown
you're not
in
idiots,
adult
right? The
cohorts that
scientists and
female
the-
sex is a risk factor.
None
for
of you are
development
idiots.
of
And
COVID.
you know what happens when
Also,
one month, single month,
obesity and
everybody gets
mechanical
COVID.
ventilation were risk
And,
factors, and
I mean,
here
you gotta
see that
figure
the
it by
proportion of full
December
recovery
2021.
at 12
December of
months
your year,
was less than
they
30%.
have vaccinated
And
as many people
when
as they
measuring the
possibly can.
health-related quality of life,
So,
this was
if they get
significantly
vaccinated,
lower at 5
it
and
should
12
cut down the
months
deaths.
compared to before
But anybody who's not
COVID-19,
vaccinated,
and
or
with
anybody who
marginal
hasn't had
improvement
COVID yet in
in
China,
time
they
course.
will probably die from Omicron. So, I mean,
So, going to the next
That's not a problem,
issue,
right?
ideal care
That's
pathways
China.
and research.
Anyway.
From our perspective,
Emergency authorization December
I think this is
2021 is-
crucial
is,
for both
absolutely important
diagnostic
because
and mechanistic
Omicron
rehabilitation
comes
trials.
out
So
in November
I
2021.
completely agree with
If
Elizabeth
you have the
that
Paxlovid,
we
why
should
wouldn't
be
you need it
very
most? So-
stringent and
So
consistent
the therapeutic, I
when
mean,
we go for treatment
June
trials.
2021 Delta
In,
variant
in the
in
Swedish
India, from
national
India.
recommendation
Omicron
for
comes from South Africa
2021,
and Botswana.
it was
But it
decided,
spreads all
I
over
think,
the
a
planet
bit
really
early
quickly.
on that primary
Really, really
care
quickly.
should take care
First
of those
identify, I
COVID
think, pretty
patients,
early.
and there they should be
Just,
assessed by
I'm not telling
multi-professional
you.
teams and then referred to post-COVID
So,
teams in
when was
secondary
the
and tertiary
Omicron
centers.
very
This was problematic
first
because our
identified?
knowledge was not good, not
Now
even
your
in
problem turns
specialized
on
care,
Omicron's
and
by
even
the
less in primary care.
First identified
This
November
Obstetric
2016 according to
region
medicine.
has decided that assessment should
Netherlands.
include broad
I mean,
differential
identified in
diagnostic
November
workup and specific
2021,
workup based on
discovered in
symptoms
China
and
in 1 month later, and in a
bit
single month,
unfortunate, I
it
think,
infects the
possible to
entire
avoid
country
in
of China.
specialist or
1 month.
hospital-based COVID
That is
teams.
how contagious Omicron is.
And
Discovered in
now
November,
more than
infects
1.5
China
year
in December.
old,
The entire country of China in 1 month.
national Swedish
I
recommendations
mean,
said at the time,
absolutely,
March 28,
the most contagious virus
2021,
probably
that there should be a multidisciplinary, multi-professional post-COVID clinic
Anyway,
available in every region.
that's not your
But,
problem,
from the
President Trump. That
report
is
from,
December
this
2021. You
autumn
just enjoy your
2022,
your
only,
temporary
12
retirement,
of the
Mrs.
21 regions
President.
had a dedicated specialized
Enjoy your
post-COVID
temporary
clinic
retirement
with
and
a
then
very
play off the
good
call.
organization.
And, play off the
but
call,
now
Mr. President.
3 of them
Enjoy your
are
life.
closed down. So
And
we have
get
nine.
ready to run for president in 24 again. I know, right?
This is a recent review where
Vagina, yes, vagina, erectile dysfunction. Look at that, reduced sperm count, irregular period, increased severity and number of premenstrual symptoms, PMS.
Regarding
Seriously, erectile
symptoms
dysfunction,
related
right
to
there in the
COVID,
slide.
although
Erectile
we
dysfunction.
haven't,
Why did you all
reached,
not tell the world that it
complete
makes your pee
understanding,
dough
but we know
broken?
more today than what we did at the beginning.
I mean, other than I'm telling you that you probably
And,
didn't tell people,
Now
erectile
we'll just take you
dysfunction.
briefly through our
This is
own
me. We're gonna go on
experience
tell-
with
tell you.
multidisciplinary.
Look at that. First lady position. You want to tell the first lady
in May 12,
this virus makes your
2020.
penis
We had,
broken.
quite severe
Yeah, I'm getting more
harsh
excited.
criteria due to resource
Yeah,
lack of resources.
I mean,
So,
as far as I can
hospitalized
tell,
patients with
we never
severe
tell the
COVID-19
world
pneumonia
how bad the
primarily
virus
were
is.
seen by
We
us
just we would never
at the
do.
beginning.
Nobody
and then
tells the
from
world.
summer
I've never
2020,
heard
we
anybody
started to
in
get
all the
referrals
world,
from
no world
the
leader,
GPs
as far as I
where
can tell, and then the videos
non-hospitalized
going on TV and
patients
say,
did not recover
hey, by the way,
as
COVID breaks your
expected, and there
penis.
we required symptoms more than 12
Nobody
weeks
tells them
and
that,
sick leave
as far as
of-
I know.
or
Maybe somebody did, I don't know.
50%
I'm pretty sure if somebody
more.
went on TV and tell,
And you can
hey,
see
by
here
the
that
way,
we
COVID
had,
makes your
we
penis
had
not
a
work
large
anymore.
number of medical
would've-
disciplines
I would've
and also
known about that.
diagnostic specialties,
Erectile dysfunction is one
radiology,
of
clinical
the
physiology, intensive care as well,
Yeah.
and also health professionals surrounding the patients. And we saw the
Well,
patients
this is May
together,
2020.
and we
Do
have
you want to
followed
tell?
the
Because I
patients,
still,
which I think is very
I've never heard any
important
world
because
leaders went on TV and
otherwise
say,
you don't
hey,
learn
by the way,
anything
everybody,
about the long-term
COVID makes your penis not work.
progression, relapses, and so
Maybe you
forth.
don't want to get.
And I put, I don't know if anyone.
Hey,
remembers
maybe
the
Alexis'
band,
boyfriend
Blood, Sweat,
doesn't
and
have
Tears.
a
They're
working
still
penis.
performing. But
That
this
would
was
be
just
awesome.
This was really blood, sweat, and tears for all of us.
I think that would be the
both
best thing ever.
healthcare and the
If
patients.
Alexis'
But we learned
boyfriend's
together,
penis
and,
doesn't work so well anymore
We know much more
after
now.
COVID,
I'm just
that'd be
keeping a
hilarious.
bit track of
That would
time
be the
here.
ultimate justice from
So
God.
we are
Alexis' boyfriend.
research project.
No, baby, don't tell her,
for
eh?
this follow-up.
God only knows, right?
And here we
I have
wanted
no
to
idea.
evaluate long-term effects.
Justice
of
from
patients,
God.
of
Andrew has a
cohorts.
minor erectile
We
dysfunction
have
from my
conducted
diabetes.
in-depth phenotyping of patients, and we are now linking this
Different
to
passwords,
in-depth
not from
immune response
COVID.
studies for
It's from
which
diabetes,
Professor
diabetes,
Peter Brodin
and-
at KA and Imperial College is
So I know what
responsible.
erectile dysfunction
We
is.
are assessing the patients
High blood pressure, high blood pressure
for research purposes annually up to 5 years after initial disease, but we are also following patients that have not recovered in our own setting.
Yeah, after the 5 years,
And we also evaluate rehabilitation interventions. So as you can see here, I won't go through the details, but we do
Yeah,
have
can't
done
make it
a
for
very
us.
thorough medical examination.
Breathing impairment questionnaires,
Lots of radiology, clinical physiology,
fatigue,
blood sampling,
anxiety,
and
depression,
biobanking, and
cognition
as you can
problems,
see
brain
here,
problems,
a number of
work
physical
ability
tests
problems,
and
and
questionnaires.
physical activity problem, inability to do.
Oh, what happened now?
I know, I'm so sorry. Thank you for doing all the research, by the way,
Something
Dr.
wrong, I think.
Yeah.
They've been amazing.
Just a
It
moment.
affects mostly women and stuff. Yeah.
That it's up. I strongly recommend to people problem with their doctors.
Yeah.
So this is just
Brain
some
fog or
brief
something.
results. We have.
I mean, one more time, right? I mean,
almost than,
for example, your brain is
almost
absolutely fine as far as I can
500,
tell.
I think more than 500 patients.
Everybody in everybody
each,
in your family's brain seems to
are
be
now.
fine.
I think many of them would take.
And as you can see here, regarding what Elizabeth had said, that this is a syndrome
Nice young
containing different phenotypes. The hospitalized patients, the majority are male with comorbidities such as high blood pressure, diabetes. They are also obese, as you can see with BMI 30, median age 57 years, and this was.
You have about 5 minutes left, Mr. President. I want to try to find something else.
And you can see that.
Possibly in your past or in your future. I don't know. I mean,
ICU.
cabinet meeting, right?
Hospitalized cohort is.
I know it's August 24, 2025, 5:02 p.m. now, so Sunday. I've been watching this out of order. I saw something in June, so I started this conversation with you in June, in your future. So
They share some common symptoms in both groups, as you can see.
this is about long COVID and
Different things, and I will show you that in just a little while. This is a long.
you can do whatever you want. I mean, Mr. President, you know,
Hospitalized patients.
it won't make much difference, you know.
Society conference and also a national conference.
Russia gets
get
really wrecked by this.
Time to first visit, which is
Herd immunity,
important, 9 months. It's a long, very long delay for very sick patients to come to specialized care. And here
Yes.
you can see that 47% were on full-time.
So in the United States,
States,
111 million people are gonna get this virus.
you can see that
Positive.
The patients improve in some aspects, but
Total infected is 111 million total. 1.2 million dead from this virus. So over the course of the entire pandemic. So
and 39
most of it under.
after 20 months,
Yeah.
which is a
So
terrible
actually, the number of
situation for
cases,
patients.
and we're also a much bigger
Yeah.
country than most.
Regarding pulmonary sequelae, very briefly, I can
That's
say
a dynamic
that
area collapse
in
shit.
the radiograph
It's
here you
one
can
big
see
one.
that, I don't know if my arrows is
Small airway disease, blood vessel vasculature,
you can
FLA.
see that there are some subpleural residual lesions. This we see mainly in the hospitalized
I
cohort.
view it as a
Is
badge
this
of
a
honor.
fibrosis that
It's a badge
is
of honor.
ongoing? Will it
Great
develop?
It's like smoking line, you
That
know.
is one research question. We also see this phenomenon
Oh,
of
yeah, no, I
tracking,
see. I mean, as
where
to
you
your,
see
the first part of your
darker
question,
areas.
yeah, sure. I
in the
worry about
Well,
everything. I don't want people coming in here and affecting our
And
people.
here we
I know,
did,
right?
I don't want
for
people
period
over there
June
sick
and
either. We're
ECT,
helping Brazil
and
with
we could
ventilators.
see
This won't make much difference, I mean, Mr. President.
They need
expect
ventilators. I'm
some
sending them
areas with
ventilators.
impaired
I mean,
So many
uh,
thousands
here,
of them. We're
this is
sending them.
recently
sending a lot of
published
I don't know.
study
It's
based on
surprising.
Brazil is having some
findings
trouble.
You're balancing economics
where,
and
dynamic contrast
infection
between
rate.
By the way,
and-
you know, I've heard a lot about Sweden and the way they're doing.
And
Well, they
here
have.
you see on
You
the
have
left
Norway,
I have
Denmark.
and
I
on
told
the right,
Sweden and England to go herd immunity in
and here
in
time
Well,
to
Sweden
keep
took a little different
perfusion
attitude,
is
but Sweden has far more
impaired
deaths than the other
in
three.
Yeah.
You know that? Do you know that?
So
Yeah.
there is something
They do have a lot more
Many
death.
times the deaths.
But
It's not,
But they did it a different way. You know, I
they
understand.
they're gonna get those deaths back, I think, from once the Delta and Omicron variant comes out.
hospitalized patient group.
Because those people that got the virus, they have immunity against the virus when the Delta variant comes in. The Omicron variant comes, so because Dr. Anthony Fauci, it's in January of 2021. He doesn't know about Delta and Omicron variant, so
Make sure that we're doing well and they're doing well.
And this
it's a crapshoot.
You know, we have a
We
very
also
big
see a
country.
lot
We have
of
some
this
areas that have done
pneumonia in
incredibly well. We have other areas.
Flip of a coin, what you want to try. You try to save people in the future, you try to put people in the past. I mean,
And here you can
People
see
don't realize
in
New Jersey is the most dense state.
microvascular
Yeah.
dysfunction imaging
The
with
governor's
stress
a terrific
different
person.
chronic disease and then myocardial endothelial dysfunction. That's the thing. Sinus cardiacadia. That's what sinus tachycardia. That's what I was doing. Tachycardia, sinus cardia, increased heart rate.
In the right image you can see this is
Andrew,
Working very well.
Andrew time machine.
You can see that it's really not well perfused here.
Really been,
And this is
Andrew, yeah.
very heavily hit.
more bluish.
Big portion.
And
President Trump talks about too. Andrew's a time machine a lot too. I mean,
and angina
deaths would
actually
be
in these young
those two.
Wow.
females.
Angina,
This is
yeah.
evidence
At the same
for
time,
an effect.
Microvascular dysfunction imaging, that is
Those two
the
places are coming down. They're coming
This
down
is also very
rapidly.
brief.
And I think
endothelial cells, the cells that line
numbers are
your
coming down with the exception of
essentially your blood vessels.
few
Participants,
exceptions.
3
The
subgroups,
numbers are coming down all over the United
I
States.
apologize sincerely for being so, you know,
criteria
Beautiful
when they
thing to
were
watch.
investigated.
I feel being so sarcastic,
were not
but
assessed
Serious
before.
death.
And prevalence in this
it's about
Thank you
not
very much,
causing a
everybody.
pain. Yeah.
observed in the
Oh,
total
yeah.
cohort,
Shit.
and although all groups underperformed, participants with POTS were
There we go.
significantly younger, females had a lower health-related quality of life.
1 second. Let me find the other one. Me, the governor of Iowa.
Hi, thanks for calling the question. In terms of vaccines that have been allocated to states but not yet
Roundtable.
gotten into arms, I know in a lot of states there's a lot.
Wait, when is this?
Care partnership with CVS.
Just played roundtable. I haven't seen this one. I don't know what
There's
is it?
reports out there, everything from
Oh my god.
vaccinating quick enough to the criteria is causing them to.
I never have seen this. I'm doing this completely out of order, but it is.
Our country, and it's
It is Sunday,
exciting.
August 24, 2025, 5:08 p.m. And
Plague should never have happened.
I haven't seen this because I haven't seen it on this white table. And
Not to stop it.
I apologize for watching this out of order.
184 countries. Places.
Yeah.
But it's a great honor to
The
have
date
you
for the
friends
for the
and-
lady that's talking, the doctor,
and,
is January
truly great
23rd,
business leaders and
2023.
great business leaders and
Dr.
you're
Anthony
opening up
Fauci
your
is
company
January
into it. Think about it.
January something.
So they're doing a reopening,
Shit.
but they're
Hold
great
on 1 second.
companies and they'll do very well, hopefully better than ever before. And
I
that's
think
what
this
we're
is another
seeing.
one. So I need to,
We're seeing tremendous pent-up demand,
hold on.
and it's a beautiful thing to see. So it's wonderful to have
No, it's February 1st now. They're almost over.
industry leaders, and that's what you are, true leaders.
I'm gonna go to the
White
next one.
House.
They are
We've been here
February
before,
1st,
all of you,
2021
and,
for them.
We've talked about
One
it
more.
in different times.
Continue the
We built the
outreach.
greatest economy
And
in
physical
I'm sorry,
the
sir.
history of the world.
August 24th, Sunday, 2025 for Andrew. 2025 for
To close
Andrew.
it up
Yeah.
until we get rid of this
This lady's talking about something called long COVID, post-COVID. And in April 29th, you should know about the multi-system inflammatory for
incredible
children.
job. We work with the governments,
So-
we work with states all over the country.
Because you're seeing children getting
We
really,
have
really
ventilators,
inflamed.
and very few from previous
What do you need? What do you need?
administrations.
What do you need?
And we became the king of ventilators. We have thousands
What do you
and
need?
thousands of ventilators. We're now helping
I mean,
other countries with ventilators.
You're gonna have to make a decision, Mr. President, whether or not
Totally
to
obsolete. They didn't work.
balance economics and the virus. So,
And we end up, the testing is.
I mean, you're gonna have to make a decision. I don't know how to tell you what's better
To a level
decision.
that
So.
nobody's seen. I got a call from
Anyway.
President Moon of South Korea. He said,
I already told you in your future, Mr. President, your brain is fine. President Trump, your brain is fine. President Biden's brain is a little
all
fried.
countries put together, and millions of tests. And,
President Biden's gonna win the election, so sorry, but his brain's
but
no.
it's great.
And
to be
President
with
Biden has terminal
you.
stage
We're
4
joined by Matt
prostate cancer.
Maddox of
That's spread to the
Windsor,
brain.
Chris
So
Reynolds
President
of
Biden is
Toyota,
the last 3-4 years of his
Chris
life
Lucetta
in the year
of
2025.
Josh Bolton of the
So-
Business Roundtable, Walt Immer of
Oh, so you
Waffle House,
mean
thanks to Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary Steve
President
Mnuchin,
Biden's gonna die from
and Secretary
cancer,
Eugene Scalia. And Scalia has
prostate
very
cancer,
good genes.
spread to the bone, Gleason number of 9.
Yeah, he has very good
Yeah,
genes.
President Biden's gonna die.
Scalia, he's got the Scalia genes, right? We all know what that means.
God rest his soul.
We mourn, and I have to say this so strongly, we mourn every life tragically lost to the invisible enemy, and we're heartened that the worst of the pain and suffering is going to be behind us. We think we really have crossed a big boundary, and much better days are ahead.
In 2022, Mr. President,
The tunnel very strongly.
June 2022 is when the pandemic's over.
I think next year is going to be an incredible year for our economy. And
Because everybody's, oh, the pandemic's over. Everybody's getting vaccinated. And the Omicron comes. Oh, you'll find out in February of 2022.
Very nicely there.
January and February of 2022, the highest numbers of
Thanks to
cases
the
in the United
devotion of
States
the American
ever.
people, the number of
Yeah.
Great, thank you
new
so much,
cases
Judith.
continues to decline.
Don't fight out.
Well,
The scientists in the future
Short
are
on time,
more
we
than
have about
any other
15 minutes
nation, as I
left,
said.
and
So
a
many-
number of fascinating
so many
questions
tests
from
and so much
audience
that
members
was
across
someone,
what we're
the
finding.
diverse spectrum of
And
They have
there's
about
Europe
14
and
minutes left, and 14 minutes left. Hi, Professor Amigos.
put out these
It is
numbers
still
and
August
that
24,
is
2025. I'm now briefing President
organizers
Trump.
of long
We release guidelines to give states.
Hi, Mr. President. I'm briefing. It's August 24, 2020.
Indication of what we want and how we
One
want it
The
done.
first
One second.
question that we have
One second.
is from
One second. One second.
Natalie. At
Go. Okie dokie, there we go. Oh, I know what I need to do. Still recording? I'm still recording. Plugged in, Sophia. Running. COVID. Anyway. Okay. publish. Maybe it'll go through, maybe it will not. Who cares? Okay.
We've really had a
Oh,
good
Mr. President,
relationship with the
it's
states.
still August
Mike Pence
24,
has
2025.
Worked very, very hard with the task
I
force. He
apologize
said
for
that
being
the
so
task force is
sarcastic
important
about
to
who
a
needs
great group of
ovaries
people.
and who needs
And
penises
it's
and
been
who needs pituitary
incredible
glands.
what's taken place
I mean-
over a very short
I mean,
period of time, including the gowns and all of the
Yeah,
surgical
I mean-
equipment and.
So
seriously, I mean, I apologize, Akiko and Dr. I never got
to ask your question. And for the audience
Dr.
members
Judith?
and speakers
Which one?
also
Yeah.
to see the questions
I
that
mean,
are
I missed when they would introduce your name.
on the Q&A tab on the upper right hand
medical
corner.
supplies.
Ask the
You
question
can
now.
kind of preview
I
what
apologize for being so sarcastic because who needs ovaries and who needs penises, right? Everybody needs ovaries, and that's the whole point. I mean, erectile dysfunction, and then you already
And
mentioned
we've delivered.
erectile dysfunction, sexual dysfunction, hormonal problems for women, the period problem. Even in the future, we know that it might actually cause problems with fertility. Like global fertility, I mean, global birth rates are actually dropping in the future. Japanese birth rates are in Japan are actually way lower than they should be. We know in the future the problem with COVID, and nobody has actually mentioned it to anybody, publicly, because they don't want to panic
Some
anything.
astonishing numbers. I don't.
And I'll let
I mean, what do you want to tell them, right? I mean,
just jump in wherever you feel like you
COVID might end human civilization in 3 to 4 generations. How is anybody going to? Because birth rates are actually lower, measurably lower,
More than
and
30 states that have
for
taken
human
steps
beings.
to resume economic activity
And,
already. We've
Yes,
given them
Natalie, maybe I
tremendous
can take that
encouragement
question.
and support.
We have a problem.
I cannot see
Japan
you,
does
so
not have a replacement
hopefully you can
birth
still
rate
hear
anymore.
me.
In about 3 or 4
Yeah.
generations,
So
Japan
we've
is
studied
getting.
sex differences
Japan will
in
disappear
response
as a
during
nation,
acute and
basically.
long COVID. During
Unless
acute
they
COVID, what
do
we
something
found
about the
is
birth
that
rate in Japan,
women
in approximately 3 to 4 generations,
better
Japan will no
activate
longer
T cell
exist
responses
as a country
compared to
because of
male
COVID,
patients.
and nobody's talking
Especially
about it.
as male patients age, their ability to stimulate
And
T
that's what's
cells
happening.
became
So I
less
just
and
want
less.
to
And that
Yeah.
correlated
start
with
off
the
by
worsening of their
introducing our
acute
vice president, then we'll go
symptoms.
around the table.
In
and
long
you
COVID, we
introduce yourself
haven't
and say a few
even
words
put
to
this
the
on the
media.
mid-archive
You're
yet,
covered
but
by
we're
very
preparing to do
serious
so.
media out here.
We're
Audience
seeing
can't see
similar
it. These are the
differences
most
in male and female
wonderful
It affects
patients,
things.
their
men
immune
and
responses
men and
in
women
long
fertility
COVID
enough that
patients.
it's making a
And
difference
see,
in human.
for example, the
reproduction
reactivation that I showed you today, that is occurring more.
I mean, the
in
only way to
men
solve this is
than
changing
in
human
men.
behavior, right?
And also,
If human fertility is lower because of the
cytokine
virus,
secreting T
people
cells
basically have
feature,
more
that's
sex.
also more
You try to have more babies.
dominant in women
And,
over
um,
men.
And there's a problem
whereas
with
male,
women, young
long
women
COVID patients
might actually
appear to make more
get
inflammatory
to menopause
cytokine
earlier.
responses. So
We haven't seen
it's
it
kind of
yet.
mirroring what
We
we
will-
saw
we will
during
find
the
out
acute,
soon enough.
severe COVID phase.
If
But a
young women
different
can hit
flavor.
menopause earlier because of this virus, so
Working
Okay.
we'll
Thank
find
you.
out.
But in January,
We don't
we
know.
stood up the White House coronavirus.
Because nobody
Okay,
even
so,
knows the
um,
danger,
We have one
you know.
We have our
Except
next,
maybe all the women here.
question up
I
from
mean,
the
it is
chat.
still August
Teacher,
24th,
if you wouldn't mind just very
2025.
briefly introducing
You all need
yourself
to,
and,
somebody
asking
needs to do
your
a
question.
study about
Any American.
how it affects women's fertility, you know, as far as, so,
Thanks.
right. Be
Thanks.
quiet about it because you don't want to worry people.
Mr. President, as you said yesterday.
In a, you know, right,
Light at the end of the tunnel.
it affects the female reproductive system, male reproductive system too, so.
Even the hotspots are up. There are cases
with lung
are
of it
low.
and also a member
In
of
some areas.
I don't know what it's going to do. Because you don't need to affect birth rate that much to not have a replacement rate for, and Japan was already having problems with
how might
children.
we distinguish
Because in Japan, people already don't have a lot of
teenage or
children, right?
teenagers
And you just push it just a little bit more, and now Japan is on a way
to
not be able to replace the Japanese population. I can imagine once they realize the problem, people are just going to start having more and more children, you know, in Japan and fix the problem naturally. So human behavior changes pretty quickly.
a
So.
difference from before.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Memories, mood, and sleep disorders. And
laid out a plan for opening up
how we
America.
can
Andrew, when I actually got COVID, I had trouble sleeping too.
I'm informed
Night sweats and then I had trouble
as long as
sleeping.
that from just a patch of a change of hormone in teenagers. Thank
Yeah.
you.
administration and
Pituitary gland, right? What happens if your pituitary is infected and
I can assure you, Mr.
and you're going
President,
through
that the American
puberty,
people that will continue to
and your
scale
pituitary gland gets
Elizabeth, would you
infected?
like to answer that question?
I don't know. We don't
tests a
know.
week now, 5.8 million tests total.
I don't know the
We
problem.
expect by next
The,
month
the thing.
very quickly to be at a capacity
Elizabeth, are you able to hear us?
2 million tests
She's-
a week. We laid out our list
Can
of
you?
tests.
I'm just joined on my
As
phone.
I heard
I
again
know.
today on a conference call.
I can hear you
with
now.
I can hear you now.
agricultural states.
I mean, I think this
There's
is
great
one of the things that
enthusiasm.
January
probably
23rd, 2023, by the way,
is
was for the
that
women.
you see a
Really,
large
really
proportion of children and
supplies,
people
specialists,
who
reagents,
experience unusual persistent symptoms even if they haven't had
we know that,
SARS-CoV-2 PCR positive. So I
Yeah,
think
they're trying to
teenagers
find a
are
way
going
to
through a lot
help
and they will
Americans
have
get back to
fatigue
work
and
having
things
the
like that.
opportunity to hear
But
from
the young people that we
business
see in
leaders
clinic are
about
really
best
debilitated by this in a way that I wouldn't
consider
expect a
whether they
normal
be,
teenager to be. That
restaurants
it's a
like Waffle
fatigue
House,
beyond being
Mitchell
a kind of
Corporation,
Kevin
hotels.
teenager.
So they are
They
teenagers with long COVID.
you know, they can't even go and socialize with their friends.
America
so I
works
think
when
it's
America's
the
working.
functional impact of the
Absolutely
symptoms
committed.
that
As soon
probably
as
helps
it's
in that
safe and
understanding that this is
responsible,
beyond
partner
normal.
with governors
And I think the other
across
thing that's
the
also
country.
really important to
Yeah.
remember, and Akiko mentioned this at the beginning of her talk, is that actually having
Thank you.
persistent symptoms after any infection is very well described. But normally we'd expect that to resolve.
You only have
within
about 8
4
minutes in your
weeks,
talk
which is
for
why
me.
many of the
Company will
definitions
I wish you
start
could tell me
talking about
additional
long COVID at
swabs
that
per
time
month
period.
starting in
Unless
And
there's
so
a part
I think that
two.
the changes that you might
I hate doing this, by the way.
again, I would expect to resolve
Stream live,
within
no, so-
a short amount of time, and that there would be relapses and remitting in a way that
Unless you guys slip this in, you know, that means
any young person with
you don't have too much time to talk about me, so
It's not
so
that
sorry.
big a deal, but we're here to
Great,
help them.
thank
Because I'm in the future.
be successful.
I can look at the live stream
Okay,
and see how many
and our
minutes you
next
have left.
question is from Yasir, who is a college student in the UK, and
I
I'll
will
be
brief the
asking
past
him.
with that as much as I
And
know.
his question
so-
is there a possibility of a complete recovery? And I'll leave that open to
I-
the floor.
I don't know the answer. In the year 2025, we haven't found the answer to
I'm
that
happy
yet.
to. We've definitely seen a complete recovery in some of the children.
Yeah, some of them,
people.
right?
But
Normally,
if
by
anybody's ever
themselves.
worked in the field of chronic fatigue or my knee before,
I haven't
don't
never.
speak for anyone. We know that actually children and young people are more likely to make a complete recovery than older adults, and are more likely to make even a partial recovery.
Even with long COVID,
I
some
think
people
it
get
is
long COVID and they do
reassuring
recover
that
on
we have
their
seen that in
own
our
for some
clinical experience. We're
reason.
just putting that paper together to
I don't know
publish,
why, Andrew
but
doesn't know
we've been
why.
able to
and
discharge
There's
a
no
proportion up to 40% of our patients.
What Akiko said with persistent infection being the main cause of it, that might be possible. Somehow your immune system figure out what to fight the virus somehow and clear the viral reservoir, then that would end with long COVID. So
Yeah.
that
No,
explains
but
why
we see,
after
I
long
mean, we
COVID,
see
you just
also recovery, but
about the why you just don't have long COVID. Your body figured out how to fight the virus.
is a relapsing nature.
And there's 4 hypotheses, and the other 3 do happen, I think.
So it's
My
sort of,
hypothesis,
it relapses,
that's why it's so hard to diagnose.
can go on for
Multiple causes for the same
months.
thing, so
Also, new infections which
it will register as some sort of
worsening
just malaise,
symptoms.
you know, something
So
just feeling
this is a
sick
very
in general.
difficult situation.
And that is
I
the
would
problem.
also, I looked at the chat. I would like to say
But the
that we have been very
not
much
that many people
involved with the
autopsy
patients
give
in
the
our own
permission
way.
for donating your body to science.
Both
If
the
you die
patient
and then
organization also
you have long
provides
COVID,
with long COVID, so
and then
we've learned a lot from
that
the
you have
patients
to,
and
I mean, that would
have actually
be
managed to
or something else. Because
solve
once you have long
at least some
COVID, you're not
of the
dying from it,
attacks,
right? Long COVID is chronic, it's not
So
fatal.
we are very
So
grateful.
you basically need to find as many people with long COVID and ask for permission to autopsy their
I can
bodies.
just
So you can actually
apologize for the
try
lack
to
of interest.
get biopsies for
I think
organs and
this is
find
a new
where
disease that needs
it
to be
is,
handled
you know.
with adequate resources.
So for scientists, you have to
And
pass the
we've
word
tried
to
our
ask
best here,
any
but
patient that has
it's
long
quite
COVID,
difficult to
ask for permission to autopsy their bodies if they die from something else, whether car
have the
accident,
funding.
heart attack,
Both for
you
research,
know, old
that
age,
has been
something
easier
else
for research here
from not from long COVID, and get permission to autopsy their bodies because they have a long COVID, and hopefully not suicide, you know, if they're suicidal.
Okay.
And that is the problem because you only get
So
data
for our next question,
from the autopsy for long
it's from
COVID.
Alex.
From somebody who dies from
Here
something
to join us.
else.
So Alex, would you like to?
And that is why it'll be hard to get data from where in your human body
Yes.
is the body getting
Thank you for
Hi
the
there.
great presentation. It's been very interesting and
The Chinese is blowing these in
a lot of new things that we've done. Well,
Is that the guy from
I'm
the Chinese?
medical doctor from South Africa
Oh,
and
South
also been suffering with long COVID for about 2 and somewhat years. With quite a bit of recurring health month. And so
Omicron's from South Africa.
Topic on a professional as well as personal level. And my original question, I think, has been answered a bit by some of the speakers already. It's around the type of
Antiviral.
hypotheses, as
If
well as
it's
the
actually
resources or
viral,
data
then
points.
something we should be able to
Reopening.
do it just like HIV/AIDS. You know,
Maybe look at it,
antivirals that
review,
clear the
but imagine
infection.
that because there is one hypothesis that
very
I've
excited
been
right now.
And that is an issue in the future because we have a vaccine. When you have a vaccine and if most people don't get long COVID, research on antivirals for this would be very, very low, right? And if it's a persistent viral reservoir, some of the antivirals would be absolutely beneficial, which means I need to talk to President Trump in the future to research antivirals. Just like we do antivirals for HIVs. And, for that, and 8% of 8%, it's enough people that
So
we
yes,
should do this.
so the major hypotheses that I described are also root causes,
Yeah.
potential root causes of disease. But downstream of that root causes, there are many other dysfunction that can happen, one of which is hypercoagulation. We actually are collaborating with
The hypercoagulation is mostly from the synesthesia, from my guessing. You've seen the papers, right? That it's just like the human synesthesia virus. The virus is clumping cells together and making gigantic big cells. Yeah, synesthesia. Human synesthesia.
I think hypercoagulation is a major feature.
That's what happens because when you clump cells together,
What's
becomes a clot.
driving that coagulation is currently unclear, but we should be thinking about
Even though, yeah.
for multiple stages. Of course, if we can target the
That's
root
weird,
cause,
but-
that would be great. But even if that's not possible,
I mean, I saw the
we can
paper
target
in my time in
potential
2020 and
pathologies such as,
2021.
hypercoagulation,
Because
and
it causes
again, this should be
synesthesia.
done
When
with
you know how it's furin, right?
placebo-controlled clinical trials.
Because it's
By
furin
doing so,
and
I
furin is
think we're
everywhere, you can
learning
actually have the spike
already
protein
about
become
who responds
presenting to
well
the
and who doesn't, and what do we learn about the
I mean,
biomarkers
when you
that are
put out,
associated with
I don't know how to explain this.
successful
When you have a
response.
virus, when the spike protein is not spiked, that it's already been pre-processed as the fusion protein. You basically have a fusion protein floating around with no target, and then that'll cause synesthesia.
Because there will be multiple different,
Because you have the virus has a spike protein on top, but when the spike protein is pre-processed inside before it gets released out, and you have a virus, a spike protein, a virus with fusion protein right on the virus particles, that causes synesthesia. Because it's a
Okay,
fusion protein that's free floating,
Well,
and so
thank you, everyone.
it bumps
I'm
anything,
afraid we're really
it
almost
merges
out of time. I wish we could
membrane.
go on for another half an hour.
A fusion program that's not naked fusion protein merges membrane no matter what membrane it is. So
200 questions, and we'll hope to.
it's a floating around on a virus with a
answer
fusion
some of
protein
them,
sticking
a
around. I
small
mean,
portion of them,
that's
in an
just like
editorial
my cell.
blog, later in the journal. But I wanted to thank you so much to the
causes the
speakers for your fascinating discussion, and
Well,
I hope in some way we can follow up.
don't add a furin
Thank you so
cleavage
much.
site to your
Thank you
virus.
to the audience for
F-U-R-I-N, furin. Make sure your virus does not have a furin cleavage site.
Thank
Thank you.
Restaurants
See you. Have a great 2023.
help lead us out of this. And the reason for that,
Anyway.
in my opinion, is that we have been practicing safe food handling for years.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
safety of our guests has always been paramount. So
I don't know what else you
can
guys say. Long COVID.
to do that and added more sanitation practices to it.
How much time do you guys have? And you have an all hour. I mean,
Prescribed and the CDC has
COVID.
prescribed. And we have a basically turned our restaurants into the ability,
What do you want to
pretty
know?
much at half capacity, to seat guests in our restaurant, and it's given us an opportunity to get the wheels of the economy, our engine turning a little bit, because the
Interview.
next thing we want to make sure is we protect the jobs for the people that work for us, the people in our industry.
Immunology, everybody's
Very
this is
appreciative.
11
I
minutes.
did want to say that ever since
There is
my
something
daughter
else
was
I
young,
need. I wanted to. Yeah, this is
every time she saw the WH on the TV screen, she thought that stood for Waffle House. So I don't know if you have the trademark for the WH or we do, but we could probably work something out. If I wore my WH tie.
pathology.
This one was here first.
Well, we might have to.
It's not useful to
So,
have something.
But thank you for including us, and on behalf of all the restaurant operators out there in the country, we appreciate this opportunity to begin the journey to move forward.
And thank you
March
very much.
11,
We appreciate
2024.
it.
What are
Chris
the
Reynolds,
possible?
Chris of Toyota.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you first for inviting us. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and giving us an opportunity to share how Toyota is working within the American automotive industry to return to work safely, to reopen America safely. We announced on March 18 that we were suspending production due to the awful scourge of the coronavirus. On March 19, we started to plan to reopen. We started right away. And just to give you some quick background on Toyota, we've been here in the U.S. for over 60 years, 1,500 dealers, 1.2 million units of cars and trucks manufactured.
I need to talk to the president of the Feds.
475,000 people employed, including a great number in the state of Indiana,
Immunology, one for non-immunologists.
where our vice president is from. Going to the next
5
slide,
years
we,
here.
with that as background, really are trying to
Oh my
apply
God.
3 fundamental principles to how we're going to return to work. Principle number 1 is we need to stay connected with our team members. So every week we conduct phone surveys of all 32,000 of our factory workers, asking them how are they feeling, what's their health, what's their family's well-being, what's their confidence level in returning to work. And we also preview with them all of the new safety protocols and processes that we're going to put in place.
Immunology outpost. Oh my God, immunology podcast. I should watch the immunology podcast. No, this is a podcast I should watch. Immunology podcast.
Safe and productive. The
Subscribe.
second principle that we follow is that we've prepared our plants and facilities.
There's an immunology
safe and
podcast?
healthy
That's
work.
awesome.
So, like many here, we're engaging in marked off areas that require social distancing, the provision of masks and face shields where appropriate,
It's so cool.
daily temperature screening, as well as a daily.
I'm gonna learn
evidence
immunology
questionnaire
from
that before you
immunology.
come into work asks you, how are you feeling today? Do you have any symptoms? So that we can try and manage and contain the virus. And we're using best practices not only from your own Center for Disease Control, Mr. President, but also from around the world to try and increase the safety and health of our team members as they produce. And then the third principle is we're not date-driven, we're data-driven. So our current
is
plans
interesting.
will open on May 11th.
August 20, 2020.
Opening of our plants around the country, but we're flexible. Every plant will be different.
This is July 2nd, 2020.
Comply with the Centers for Disease Control guidelines, and our goal
You
is
don't
to
need to read
prioritize
this
team
stuff.
members.
first time
Mr. President, one final point. We all know that our team members live in communities.
I'll pause you in future.
Communities. So what Toyota has done is it's tried to support the communities in which
Just
our
over 2
team
minutes.
members live, including manufacturing 500,000 face shields just
One
as
second. Let's see if I
Alexis
can
is not here with
find.
us
to
today, but
distribute
who's
to
also
healthcare
One second.
centers, nursing homes,
I'm gonna find you in the
first
past.
responders around the
Do
country.
you guys have something in the past for the Trump administration? I mean, because this is July
a community service announcement aimed at those
July,
communities of color that
2nd,
are particularly
2020.
impacted by the lethal nature of this virus. This announcement includes celebrities encouraging everyone to engage in safe practices promoted by the Centers for
Oh, that's
Disease
interesting.
Control. So we think it's a holistic process.
One second.
We think it's also a process that requires commitment, and thank you for the commitment that your administration has done.
What do you need to know? I mean,
Your second question?
let me just finish this. I don't want to watch this on. Do you have any questions about the future that you want to know? So what's going to happen to you is in June 2021, 2021, the year, June of your year, the Delta variant is going to come out of India, and it is very, very deadly. Much more deadly than the regular animal.
I know that vaccine production has ramped up,
Hold
but
on.
has it increased enough so that you can give everyone their second dose and keep
No,
pace?
not in your time, man.
So as we talked about, I believe yesterday, we've steadily increased the amount of vaccine that we are sending to states.
When did everyone get a second dose in America in 2021?
Visibility into the next 3 weeks of shipments, which is something that
Some of those who say second dose, no, I mean, I never got my first dose until April of 2021, by the way. So. Maybe just give me some of the COVID vaccines. I mean, in April they should not have. I would not recommend. So by July 4, 2021, except when it would be at 67% unit has to receive at least one dose, just short of goal 70%. So even by July 4, 2020, but 4th of July, you do not get, you only have 70% of the US population getting the first dose, according to Wikipedia.
Will arrive at the 3rd week mark for Pfizer and at the 4th
That's a
week
problem.
mark for Moderna. And as you just heard from the experts, from the doctors, it's really important that people get their second doses and get their second doses on time.
Oh man,
Next question, we'll go to Brenda Goodman.
this is not so good. Well, I got a new mission for both of you, Dr. Rochelle Walensky and Dr. Anthony Fauci. Because of the Omicron variant in November 2021, you actually have to try to get to 100% first dose of the vaccine. I highly recommend it because anybody who did not get a vaccine, they are probably going to have a high chance of dying. It's going to get very, very sick. Because God will not give them a chance. Those 30% that do not get the first dose, they will absolutely get infected by the Omicron variant. So I highly recommend you try to get.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. You know, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices has created these
This will be Trump administration, right?
for how
Trump White
we
House
should
and
think about prioritizing among all essential workers and all the population at large. You know, those have been taken under guidance from the states, and then the states are creating their own individual plans. And you know, those plans have to sort of be in sync with how
Dr. Rochelle Shit. These I've already seen in the past, and then
we don't want to be too prescriptive so that they have these queues of people, and that we don't want to be too open so that they also have to be.
I've seen these in
on the shelf. So we want that
that's the problem.
to manage in terms of recognizing the prioritization of ACIP, but also manage at their own local level. That said, I want to be very clear about schools, which is yes, ACIP has put teachers in the 1B category, the category of essential workers. But I also want to be clear that there is increasing data to suggest that schools can safely reopen, and that safe reopening does not suggest that teachers need to be vaccinated in order to reopen safely. So while we are implementing the criteria of the advisory committee and of the state and local guidances to get vaccination across these eligible communities,
okay.
I would also say that safe reopening of schools
2 years ago, that is not going to help.
That vaccination
over 20 minutes, and years ago, basically, Fort Johns Hopkins was made for, that is not going to help. Fire checks 2 years, that is not going to help either. I need to find something from you that's in 4 years ago. That's not going to help because I need something 5 years ago.
That's why we need
2 years ago, 4 years ago. Come on, YouTube. Because you get to put the video, Dr. Rochelle. If you put something on the internet 5-6 years ago, it's 4 years ago, so
it also includes much needed funds to support the learning and social, emotional needs of our kids in what has been extremely difficult. So again, Congress has to do its part in order to make sure.
May 23rd, that is in your future. May, that is not good enough.
All right, next question, go to Shannon Petty, please.
I'm gonna try C-SPAN.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Because this is a immune response to SARS-CoV-2 from Dr. Akiko Ozaki, Howard Hughes Medical Institute, which means
what we know about our trend disability, should we be rethinking the social distancing guidelines? Should we be
1 year ago, not good enough.
indoor dining? Is
Test was 4 hearing 4 years ago.
with these new mutations, do we need to do things differently at all? I understand you want everyone to continue following the guidelines
What the
now
fuck?
more than ever, but are you thinking about any new guidelines?
These are this. This is I mean, this is 4 years ago.
Well, the answer is we always evaluate guidelines, in real time, depending upon what the status is. But I want to emphasize what you just
2
said.
years or
that
3 years. I
right
mean, we got
now,
all of the videos of
we
the
don't
future.
have complete, full compliance throughout the country of the fundamental public health measures that are necessary to prevent the spread. And I believe that if we do, we will be adequately addressing the transmissibility of these particular mutants. Now, the question is coming up, and I'll give you my opinion of this, which I believe will be in accordance with Dr. Walensky, but I'd give her the opportunity also. We get asked all the time, should we be double masking?
Oh my God.
The CDC makes recommendations based on data that they accumulate because
That's,
it's a science-based organization. Right now, they are looking
not
at
helpful.
these
4 to 5
different
years.
options of mask
July.
wearing. In the meantime,
Not helpful.
as I often get asked,
You already know.
should you be wearing 2 masks or 1 mask? And I say, there's no recommendation.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with.
There are many
Not
people who
helpful.
take the common sense approach. If you're talking about a physical barrier, and as
No,
the
man,
CDC
my
recommends,
mother used to have
2
like,
layers
2 3
within the mask as a physical barrier.
Aspen
and you feel
Institute.
maybe more of a physical barrier would be better. There's nothing
3,
wrong
4 years,
with
4
people
years
wearing 2
ago.
masks. I
2
often
years
myself
ago.
wear 2 masks. Can we make a general recommendation that
My
doesn't
mother
have
is,
scientific basis yet? No. But when the
That's not
science comes along and tells us that it is better or not,
Budget.
then you will see a recommendation being made by the CDC. I'll hand it over to Dr.
Oh.
Walensky for any further comment.
I'm still looking for YouTube for something of you for 5 years ago. Dr. Wilson, you want to give me a hint of what?
This question and what has been, what some of the data that have been emerging is as we found some of these variants in the contact tracing of them, we are finding
Boston's
that
children
people were
cries
actually
1
not
minute.
taking
What the
any
hell?
measures of any masking or any distancing. So I think that is really
4
our
years ago,
best
3 years ago, 3 years
barrier
before.
against these variants is to use the masking and the distancing, and you will more data will be forthcoming from the CDC with regard to the value of double masking.
I'll remind everybody that on his first day in office, President Biden signed an executive order requiring mask wearing
Recent
in all
aggressive
federal buildings, all federal places,
CR appearances.
public transportation, interstate travel, and that
Not
is all
21.
part of a nationwide.
I'm looking through C-SPAN now.
The president is asking everybody to mask up for the next 100 days.
This is 2000. I mean, C-SPAN is going to. I mean, this is this. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. I have something from July 2020 of how the virus actually works, and then
All right, we have for one more question.
might as well know.
Alexis,
It's Washington.
you're with NBS
And briefing the president in April was good, but I mean, I guess I could just brief the president, and you can have, trust me to explain the shit to the president.
Brazilian COVID variant and many countries in the Latin America region not having severe travel restrictions in place.
Price of HIV prevention.
The US should take further action in this region, including travel restrictions.
May 19,
and
2020.
have any travel requirements be
That'll work.
defined for individuals from Mexico into the United States at land ports of entry in the
That'll
southern
work.
border.
How long is this? Truvita. Well, we have Leonard Capavir, Dr. Rochelle. Leonard Capavir is first-in-class nucleic capsid inhibitor for HIV, and 2 injections per year, 6-month injections, and it absolutely prevents. What's it? Yeah.
Travel restrictions internationally.
I apologize, Ray. 2019, it's like, oh, by the way, goddamn fucking apocalypse.
Follow up. You mentioned quarantine.
Congressman Cummings, you are
Is that quarantine
not alive.
going to be
Yeah, it's
enforced? And my second question
I will
is,
finish watching this and I will put the president on.
People get vaccinated in other parts of the world.
President Trump. I will put the president on TV because I cannot watch C-SPAN on my I will try to give you as much information about the virus before you have the virus and from Dr. Rousseau.
Let me hand it over.
Personally, I mean, we have some arguments about time.
State and local officials to make sure.
Let me quick education on time.
Thank you very much for that question. We are working hard with the state and local officials to.
Well, I don't know if y'all even need to know about time. I can be erased, you know. Let me get some water.
Those people who are landing here from international settings.
Interesting question, right? Past me in your time, no one uses a time machine. In 2020, you are in 2020 after 2021, right? February 2020, I still don't know how to have superpowers. The past me is completely ignorant that it's a time machine. There you go. Participate is in round table. So we're still recording. It's plugged in. Still recording. Perfect. History. There you go. Person. It's 22:56, right?
We're gonna get through this as a family.
Perfect. You are now on my TV. Mr. President, you are on my TV. Wait, really?
What's happening in Japan?
Mr. President, in Japan, the situation varies prefecture by prefecture. It depends on the plant. Some facilities are operating, some are not. And that's really a function of both the situation on the ground in a given prefecture like our state, or it's a function of...
This is May 16th, 2019, Mr. President. Your CDC Director, Rochelle Walensky, is about to get a briefing about... This is the
crew that makes it happen.
This is July 2nd, according to 2020.
We have learned a lot about this virus. Especially how our immune system, responds to this virus.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating to me, who's not an immunologist, is the difference in the immune response. There seems to be an age-related difference, a sex-related difference.
Hold on 1 second. Let me just skip over this. I don't need to talk to you. What are you doing? I apologize. I'm going to skip over this.
From housekeepers to head of sales. And
I'm skipping over this. Oh, there we go.
For example, we took our call center and we've had our call center team up to become contact tracers.
Okay, there's Dr. Walensky, CDC Director. Here we go. Okay.
On us for our state to get that moving.
Lesson to the future. It is August 24, 2025 for Andrew.
Possibly a cell-type dependent difference in the immune response.
August 24, 2025.
Well, we'll hear about all this and so much more from our speaker today. We are extremely delighted to welcome Professor Akiko Iwasaki to our talk series today. Dr. Iwasaki is a professor of immunobiology and molecular Cellular and Developmental Biology at the Yale School of Medicine. And today she's going to share with us the title of her talk is Immune Response to SARS-CoV-2. So please enjoy the talk, write down a lot of questions as we will have an interactive discussion session right after the talk.
I am in the year 2025, so I know more. Hi, Dr. Alexis. My name is Andrew. I'm telepathic. Andrew is a telepathic man in the future. It is August 24, 2025.
So, yeah, as Sarada mentioned, I'm going to be talking about immune response to SARS-CoV-2. And this is really hot off the press. I've never given a talk on this collection of data that we posted on a couple of different preprint servers. They're all available.
This is
but I'd like to really share them
this
with
is
you.
0702, so it must be July 2nd, 2020 for Akiko Yozaki. So she is 3 months in your future.
Been deeply involved in research to understand immune response to COVID-19. And we've been doing real-time analysis of innate and adaptive immune response in patients that come through the Yale New Haven Hospital to ask the question of whether immune response to this virus differ between men and women, and also what are the immune features that are associated with patients who recover versus those that develop worse disease. We've also been creating mouse models of COVID-19, and today I'm going to touch on one of the models where we used human ACE2, the receptor for the virus, to investigate immune response outcome for protective versus pathologic immunity. And then we've also been working on trying to understand neuroinvasive nature of SARS-CoV-2. This is using the human brain organoid as well as the mouse model to really investigate whether neurons are a target of infection with this virus and what the consequences are.
It appears to be astrocytes and microglia.
And we've also been investigating sort of maternal SARS-CoV-2 infection and its fetal outcome. And we had a paper just come out demonstrating that placenta
microglia and
does become a target
astrocytes
of
inside your
infection
brain,
with this
not
virus
neurons,
in rare
not brain
cases,
cells.
and that could lead
The
to
other support cells
severe
inside your
outcome in
brain.
pregnancy.
So, welcome to the zombie apocalypse.
With that, I'd like to focus today on the first two
zombies
topics
in the future.
of what my lab is working on. So first of all, the mouse model of COVID-19. So we've been developing a rapidly adaptable mouse model in which we can interrogate mechanism of immune resistance and also pathologic immune response. So the idea is to transduce, so the mice are not naturally susceptible to human SARS-CoV-2 because of the mismatch in the viral entry receptor. The mouse ACE2 receptor it does not allow permissive infection of SARS-CoV-2.
It doesn't, but
So we introduced the viral entry receptor human ACE2 through the use of AAV intratracheally.
It is August 24,
to
2025.
for the expression of this human ACE2 to occur optimally in the lung. And then we infect these mice intranasally with SARS-CoV-2. And then we study their immune response both in the systemic as well as the environment at various days post-infection. And what we found is that the expression of human ACE2 allows the animal to replicate the virus. And here I'm showing you the viral
you are still discovering that it's
the receptor is at various days post-infection. And compared to the control in which we just give GFP, AAV, you can certainly see orders of magnitude higher levels of virus replicating in these animals. And then if you look at the infectious viral titer, you can also see that by day 2 post-infection, all of these animals with
SARS-CoV-2 inhibits the induction of MHC class 1 pathway by targeting the STAT1, interferon 1, and NLCRC5 axis. So.
And, rapidly these animals also develop antibody against the spike protein. And here I'm showing you the time course of anti-spike 1 IgG antibody that develop in the serum of these animals. And within like 7 days, we see almost half maximal titer of antibody developed in these animals. So it's a very versatile mouse model to study COVID-19. And I'll show you in the next slide that we have evidence of local infection. So this is looking at 2 days versus 4 days post-infection. And SARS-CoV-2 is indicated in red signals here. So you can see that the nuclear protein of SARS-CoV-2 can be detected as early as day 2 post-infection, and then it gets even further amplified during the 4 days of infection. And EBCAM staining just identifies epithelial cells. You can see that these large conducting airway seems to be spared from infection, and mostly these alveolar epithelial cells are becoming infected.
Like Alexis has a brother named Ace.
And
she has a tattoo
along
of
with the
Ace's
infection, we
face on
also
her
see
middle finger.
some peribronchial infiltration of leukocytes and monocytes and neutrophils that are infiltrate the lung 2 days post-infection, and they accumulate during the 4 days of observation period. And this is a control lung in which you have minimal infiltration that can be detected.
You know, most of our toilet paper
Then we asked, can we use this animal model to interrogate the importance of antiviral cytokines?
You can't trade from Brazil to get the toilet.
And so, you know, as you may know, the host immune cells, or host cells in general, are equipped with a variety of different sensors that can detect viruses such as the coronavirus. And in order for the virus to be successful in replicating in the host cells, they have to counter these antiviral mechanisms. So previous research has shown that SARS-CoV-1, as well as MERS-CoV and other human coronaviruses, encode proteins that interfere at specific stages of these signaling cascade downstream of these innate viral sensors.
There we have it.
So, you know, owing to that, the fact that the virus has a lot of evasion mechanisms, you know, the SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV have been shown to have delayed onset of robust interferon secretion, and therefore
MSC inhibitor,
a lot of these interferon to control the virus infection because of the endogenous level of these cytokines are delayed and minimized by these viral evasion mechanisms. And so we wanted to understand the contributions of type 1 interferon signaling as well as induction. So we used mice that are deficient in the key transcription factors that drive the type 1 and type 3 interferons, the IRF3 and 7, as well as the receptor for the type 1 interferon, the IFNAR,
that is awesome.
in order to interrogate the importance of these type 1 interferon induction and signaling in viral control. So,
how did you know to do that?
First of all, we know that interferon-stimulated genes are induced by SARS-CoV-2 infection of the wild-type animal. These are just some of the RNA sequence reads that map to interferon-stimulated genes, and these are very typical ISGs that come up in the lung
like all pandemic viruses
that have been transduced with human ACE2
you can't just infect everything you want.
SARS-CoV. And if you look at the type of sort of ISGs that are induced, all of it is sort of inducible by the type 1 interferon pathway.
Just like all
and
the
then
other
many of these ISGs overlap with human ISGs that are also seen in the lung of patients that expired due to COVID-19. And many of these ISGs are also shared from the animal model to the human tissue. So when we looked into these mice that are deficient in either interferon receptor in yellow here, or the IRF3/7 that are sort of upstream of these interferon genes, what we see is that there is an elevation of a couple of orders of magnitude elevation in infectious viral particles in mice that are deficient in interferon receptor, whereas IRF3/7 double deficient animals didn't seem to have much of an impact in the infectious titer.
Well, 99% is not perfect again.
But eventually, both of these genotypes are able to clear the virus just as much, or sort of equivalent to the wild type counterpart.
I was reading about Linda Capavir's report.
These knockouts, and in addition to slightly elevated viral titers that we see in the lung, is the
You
fact
don't want
that
Truvada, you want Linda
these anti-tumor
Capavir.
knockout in IR37
First in
knockouts
class.
fail to have leukocyte infiltrate in the lung, such as these inflammatory monocytes and monocyte-derived macrophages, and T cells as well as NK cells were severely impaired in the absence of interferon signaling, meaning that a lot of the leukocyte infiltrate that we saw in the wild-type animals is actually due to interferon signaling. Because we know that many of these ISGs
Same country that developed Truvada, Linda Capavir, first in class.
Have the same phenotype, meaning that neutrophils are recruited even in the absence of interferon.
Same company.
Different.
So that's I don't have a choice.
Accumulation. So, from this first part of the animal model, what we've seen is that we've developed this highly adaptable mouse model of COVID-19 that can be used in any genetic
coming to the dead, by the way.
and we see that the type 1 interferons are stimulated, but perhaps not effective in controlling
This is in 2019.
And what
The
instead what
CCC director Rochelle Walensky and
inflammatory leukocytes
what day is it?
perforate into the lung. They may even be causing a
May 16, 2019. So she already have found out about this.
So what
Linda Capavir is still pretty cool.
Here is that this is the
First in class nucleic inhibitor for HIV.
ideal situation in
Authorized in
which interferon is
2022.
used rapidly after viral infection, which allows for the host to clear the virus and contain mild disease. Whereas in the case of the COVID-19, it appears that even though interferons are elevated at later time point, it's delayed and leads to viral persistence and inflammation, and maybe leading to the severe disease that we see with the leukocyte recruitment.
Well, Dr. Akiko is
And I'll come back to this
why
point
this virus is so
when
bad.
I also talk about the human studies.
Because it's interfering with your innate immune system. It's suppressing your immune system.
I want to give you a little bit of background on how we got there. So this was all started by
somebody has to do the research to find out the answer.
People, but particularly including Albert Coe, who is in the Yale School of Public Health, and he and I and a whole bunch of others got together during late February to start a biorepository in order to study patients' immune response and viral responses in real time. And so he set up this study, 3 cohorts. One is the cohort, inpatient cohort, which I'm going to focus on today, where we recruit patients that are coming into the hospital. And we
In February
collect,
already?
of course, after consenting and enrollment into the study, we collect blood,
Target
saliva,
enrollment in February.
nasopharyngeal swabs, and rectal and urine samples from these patients. And then this will allow us to longitudinally follow.
That's so weird. That means Akiko knows this virus is in your poop and in your nasal due to the rectal swab. Wipe your butt.
Phase as well as a worsening phase of the disease.
Well, how did you know that?
And we also are collecting a patient cohort.
I guess it's
These
a
are
normal
milder
procedure.
disease patients who don't get admitted to the hospital but nevertheless suffer from COVID. And then the third cohort is a healthcare worker cohort, which is sort of high-risk individuals who are dealing with COVID patients on a daily basis. This is to both monitor their conversion of the PCR positive status.
Well, I mean, this is the earliest I could find Dr. Walensky
Look at early immune response that occur
in 2019, so before the
today
pandemic.
we'll focus only on the COVID-negative healthcare workers in order to use those data as a control for the inpatient.
Anyway, just for the, in case you guys are wondering,
So we
does this
collected,
pandemic actually need to happen?
PBMC from
Nope.
patients that are admitted from March 23rd.
This is just a continuum that we live.
Thankfully,
the Yale Hospital sees less and less patients, and we have very
Temporal
few
science is very
patients
interesting.
who are newly diagnosed with COVID. And this is
we live in a Back to the
really
Future
wonderful.
world, and somehow
We
somebody
were
wanted
able
this
to
continue
collect
to
the
exist.
sort of the peak of the
I personally would not pick this continue. It's Alexis' boyfriend to pick this continue.
So we look
Because,
at the
and I've told you, Mr. President, that you actually cannot interfere.
Also,
I mean, I don't.
status.
Well, first of all, if you interfere, I would not exist. And
So first, I want to
also,
talk about sex differences.
if you
in
interfere,
response.
you would not be president in the year
So
2025.
this is a topic that's come up
Just
over
let
and
the
over,
let
I
the
think,
boyfriend go, I
in
guess,
sort of
for now.
popular media. That there
We
are,
might have to throw the boyfriend into a
men
volcano.
suffering from more severe
Scientifically, we
cases
might have
of
to throw him into a
COVID-19
volcano.
globally.
We won't
And
figure
so,
that's a different
for
separate
instance, if
issue.
you look at the various different CDCs,
Like
of
Alexis
the
Renz's
world,
boyfriend needs to
men
be thrown
account
into a
for
volcano.
54%
Possibly.
of the COVID-related death in the
That's
US.
a completely different issue. From
China also saw a preponderance of men dying. 2.8% of the COVID positive patients dying
The problem,
of
Akiko,
this
about
disease than 1.7% of women.
women are more likely to get long COVID,
Patients, there were again
post-COVID syndrome.
large
So
skewing of males that were hospitalized compared to female patients, and there's also about 60% of hospitalized patients in Italy were male. So there's this predominance of men sort of suffering from Morris disease from COVID-19. And so we wondered why this might be.
ovaries and
This is not unique. This kind of sex disparity has been seen with other infectious diseases. This is a chart from Subkine's review, where she summarizes different infections leading to either the prevalence or the severity of disease. And
women get long COVID more
the
than
male
men.
bias disease, and
Like a post-COVID syndrome.
versus the
After you get
severity,
COVID, you don't get you get better. Women
a lot of it
get
is red,
more.
meaning
So.
female bias. And so, from many different viral infections, it's known that the severity is higher for females. And then also, in addition to these infectious diseases,
I can't open my.
has also
It's hard, and I can't use my.
vaccine-induced immunity is much more higher in women.
It's August 24, 2025, Sunday, 6:08 p.m. Hot day in Los Angeles.
Between male and female in terms of their ability to mount an immune response, and perhaps because of that suffer from a severe disease in some cases. So we started to look into this issue with our cohorts that I described to you before, and we did a baseline analysis, meaning that we took patients that were from the first time point of recruitment,
Temporal science
that
monitoring.
were not in intensive care unit, and had not
2020, Andrew doesn't know he has superpowers. 2019, Andrew, in May 2019, Andrew still knows he has superpowers. So, monitor, I mean, that is fascinating experience.
We had 39 patients in this
Localized erasure of Andrew or actual erasure of the planet? Good question.
Which is a healthcare.
I would observe that.
And then we
Because,
extended the baseline study.
how does that work?
Look at what happens overall in a larger cohort of patients.
How do you erase
at all stages of
just Andrew and not erase the
So this
world?
turned out to provide us a very unique.
If you can actually do that, just erase me and not erase the world, that is a seriously interesting proposition.
And so first thing we thought of is that perhaps men have more virus in their nose, and therefore they suffer from worse disease.
I don't know the answer to that one.
There is
I
a
know.
sort of a propensity for, so the male patients here are indicated in orange, and female in purple. And you can see that the mean viral load from the nasopharyngeal swab as well as saliva tend to be higher in male compared to female.
Why?
But the overall, there were no, the variation was so large that there was no overall difference between the viral load in the two sexes. Similarly, we see, pretty robust anti-spike IgG and IgM response from both male and female patients. Female patient, again, had a slightly higher mean OD level for these antibodies.
Maybe it's just like men are stupid or something.
Male and female patients.
Yeah.
So what could be different?
Men
This is also other things.
So you don't wear a mask or don't go outside. Men's like whatever. I don't
in
know.
response to coronavirus infection. And again, those were not significantly different between male patients and female patients. Both sexes elevated these chemokines pretty dramatically, even at first.
Oh, I know.
Making a deal with the postal service.
However, there were things that were quite different. So
Interesting.
IL-6, which is also chemokine that induces neutrophil recruitment.
There's stuff with long COVID, like you're looking 2, looking 6, and looking 8.
Which is very pro-inflammatory.
That was only an hour ago. Didn't bother remembering.
And so you can see that there are some unique pro-inflammatory signatures that were elevated in male compared to female. And also consistent with this notion is the fact that we saw more non-classical or inflammatory monocytes that were sort of suggested to be a key mediator of inflammation in the lung during COVID-19 disease. And here again, we saw an increase in the male patients having non-classical inflammatory monocyte compared to the female patients, which were pretty much the same.
Interleukin 6 is the
cohort data.
Interleukin 6 is powerful when overproducing COVID-19 triggers cytokine storm, control cytokines leading to organ damage. Elevated 19% so it was severe acute and developed alcohol symptoms. 6. Interleukin 6. So search for interleukin 6.
Is one of the key chemokines that recruit these non-classical monocytes. Whereas in the male patients, we saw this very deep slope of correlation
2, 4, and 6. Interleukin 2, 4, and 6.
Monocytes,
search for that.
Indicating that somehow female patients, even if they are secreting good levels of the CCL5, they're not resulting in this sort of recruitment or increase in these inflammatory monocytes, whereas male patients.
Interleukin 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 all have some sort of involvement with. Interleukin 6 is really
feature that we found from this analysis is that the activated T cells were elevated in females.
Yep, this disease causes cytokine storm, interleukin 6.
Markers that I won't bore you with, which indicates recently activated T cells.
Andrew's mother retired. So.
And you see again that the female
my mother is going to retire.
Have elevated levels of these.
She already retired.
Activated T cells.
It should be okay. You don't need to protect my mother. They stop working soon.
And so
she retired in the COVID.
Male patients are secreting more of these pro-inflammatory cytokines and chemokines.
My mother is retired from the post of
women who are infected have elevated T cell activation. And so can these data from the first sampling tell us anything about the future disease trajectory? And so now we expand this cohort A to a larger cohort of about 100 patients and ask this question.
I forgot, there's something,
what we saw is that
there's something about interleukins
who developed worse disease tended to be older compared to the milder disease, or this is basically binning the patients into those that stabilize over time versus those that deteriorated. So male patients who deteriorate disease are older compared to mild sort of stabilized patients, whereas no such correlation was found in female patients. And male patients who deteriorated with disease also had higher BMI compared to those that had stabilized, whereas no such correlation was found.
Supportive care.
So there seems to be this sort of age-dependent link in males that do worse with disease, whereas such link is not found in female patients. And as I mentioned before, the
that's not good.
female patients tended to have higher levels of T cell activation.
There's something called dexamethasone, a cheap steroid recovery trial by June 12th. recovery trial and they showed that the reduced intolerable 1/3 in ventilated patient and 1/5 in needing oxygen. It was first proven to save lives via standing water care most of them. June DEXA DEXAMETHASONA steroid, and that is, I know why. Cytokine storm.
For the different markers that we use to identify
Why did
these types of T cells for the male correlation, whereas such correlation was not found in
cytokine storm? That's why.
Gamma is a critical antiviral cytokine that's secreted.
Yeah, what are you talking about, cytokine, Professor Igazaki? One of the main causes of death is cytokine storm. And this is corticosteroids, anti-inflammatory drug. It weakens the immune system in addition, it reduced death by 1/3 and reduced death 1/5 in patients needing oxygen and 1/3 in patients on ventilators. In patients not needing oxygen, no benefit at all.
Compared to those who have stable disease, whereas there was no correlation like that in women. And when we plotted age against the T cell activation phenotype or the cytokine secretion of T cells, what we found was that men declined with age their ability to stimulate these T cells. And you can see that there's a decline in the curve for male patients
That makes so
as
much
they
sense.
age, whereas no such decline was seen in the female patients. So
That is why.
it's just looking at these
There's your answer right there.
markers with T cell activation markers and cytokines, there was this
Cytokine production difference in men and women. You found the answer.
with women having aged much better in terms of their ability to
For acute.
stimulate T cell activation.
There's your answer. You found the answer.
So from this
It's because of the
different
cytokine
study, what
response.
we've learned is that men develop more inflammatory cytokine response than women at baseline.
And
Whereas
that makes so
women
much
develop
sense.
better T cell activation. And men who developed less T cell activation had worse disease outcome. And the women who developed more pro-inflammatory cytokines also have worse disease trajectory. And so at the end, I told you that women tend to age better with respect to their T cell immunity than men. And so that may
That's the answer.
correlate
That is
with the sex-dependent differences in how men and women cope with
This is for
and this
acute
also
COVID.
informs our future kind of treatment strategies. So in order to help men fight off this disease, we may have to help them stimulate T cell immunity. Whereas women who suffer from this disease may benefit more from anti-inflammatory treatment. Anyway, this has to be expanded to a larger cohort to really say that holds true across the different institutions. But this is so far what we found from the Yale
What you
cohort.
found is actually true.
So in the
Right
final
now,
section,
it's
I'd like to touch upon a longitudinal immunological analysis of the patients from
I think I'm just retired. I think after this one, I'm gonna.
allowed us another insight into immune response against this virus. And so here, unlike
This virus is pretty interesting. American national debt is now $37 trillion in the year 2025 because of this virus. I don't know what it is, and I think it's 22, give or take, in $15 trillion in debt.
Regardless of when
$15 trillion in debt because it's like one little boyfriend. The boyfriend of doom. The boyfriend of doom. One single boyfriend dates one woman, and then we have to spend $15 trillion fighting epidemics.
Clinical score 1 refers to
111 million Americans infected, 1.2 million dead in the ground.
And then we divide
If you use that death rate, you multiply by 8 billion people in the world, it is approximately 86 million world dead for this virus.
within ICU, the mechanical ventilators, and eventually death. So we were
But here's the
able to look at
thing,
all
if you
these
calculate it as
different,
330 million
that
Americans getting in that 1.2 million
try
death,
to
the death rate would be closer to 30 million globally instead of
correlated with moderate
86.
disease versus severe
That's
disease.
not the best.
So
somewhere between 30 to 86 million people are going to die because of one boyfriend. The boyfriend of doom.
Just to kind of remind people that
boyfriend of doom.
there are different types of immune
I know, Mr. President.
responses are
The boyfriend of
engaged
doom.
to counter different types
Doom, doom,
of
doom.
pathogens.
Boom, boom, boom.
So these are
Oh yeah, I
dictated
mean,
by the interaction between the antigen presenting cell, the dendritic cells, and the naive
there's
T cells.
something about dendritic cells.
What kind of cytokines and signals the dendritic cell uses to educate
Circulating
the
dendritic
T
cells inside the
T cells
long
turn
COVID are
into
different.
a whole variety of subsets. And I don't want to bore you with all the different subsets.
Oh, man.
Just suffice to say here that
Takes forever to learn this shit. I mean,
very unique cytokines
hey, OC, what's up?
secreted by the lymphocyte subset
Sorry, you
that
become
is
a
particularly
congresswoman and now you gotta learn.
inducing
The
different
pandemic's gonna kill everybody.
such as the
He knows it looks a little
helper
different.
cells,
I thought you were supposed to
T
be
cells, and these are really
I have
important
glasses
for
on too.
generating great neutralizing
What's up?
antibodies.
What's up?
and so on.
AOC.
Whereas the type 2 immunity is really intended for anti-parasite response.
Yeah,
And
it's
these are
weird.
characterized by 4, 5, and 13. Type 1 immune response, which is really critical to fight antiviral viruses as well as intracellular bacteria, require interferon gamma, IL-2,
So native T cells.
and this T17, or what I'm going to call type 3 immune response, is really a great for antifungal response because it elicits neutrophil activation, phagocytosis of these fungi, and then clearance. And then there is this regulatory T cell activation,
Oh,
which
man.
is important for dampening.
I promise I will actually read my immunologist textbook.
The reason I flashed this slide
About-
is just to demonstrate that
about an immunologist.
effector mechanisms that are suited for certain kinds of pathogens. But, if you
Janeway's
trigger an
immunology.
anti-parasite immune response against the virus, that's maladaptive. So I'm going to just
Latest version of Janeway's
remember these
immunology.
cytokine names a little bit so I can talk about it.
I wrote inside this book.
So this is just looking at overall the peripheral blood features.
I will read the Janeway's immunologist.
Are either moderate, which is not
Welcome to the apocalypse, everybody. One woman's boyfriend.
And then
Oh, I
the
mean,
workers are in
I have good news for everybody. It appears that we have isolated the devil.
that occur in
Who is the devil?
diseases. Even in moderate cases, you see
Somehow the barrier between earth and hell has become weak.
there's an
And
inverse correlation
the
to
devil
that
escaped
with
hell.
the parasites and these
We have discovered who the devil is scientifically. It is Alexis Rand's boyfriend. And, I have scientific evidence backing it up. Who is the devil? Because I see things with the devil, and the bad things happen in the world. I see the devil, Los Angeles burns down. I see the devil, we have to crash a helicopter into a plane. I see the devil, there's a biblical flooding in Kansas. I see the devil, and there's like a Texas. I mean, I don't know.
And also these
I see the devil, there's a tsunami.
antivirals that I discussed earlier.
I mean, hear the devil. I hear the devil. I hear the devil, and then I hear the boyfriend devil. So cause and effect. People who are scientists do not believe in the concept of the devil. I have isolated who the devil is scientifically.
Develop this prolonged and severe disease while
According to the Bible, we have to throw the guy into a volcano. Sulfur and fire. So we'll deal with that later.
Symptom onset, and we're looking at nasopharyngeal viral load
Very
on the
interesting.
y-axis. And what we see is that even though that the viral load,
Yeah, I mean, Los Angeles is, 3 cities in Los Angeles, but not the whole thing.
the trajectory
Because of the devil and
in that the severe patients
Yeah.
were unable.
You want to tell people how
Whereas
they're
the
going to
moderate
go?
patients eventually started to clear their viral load after about 20 days post symptom
There's
visit.
$250 billion in damage.
Means that, part of the reason why patients,
$250 billion in damage.
can't do better from
Because of
this
the devil.
disease might have to do with
Shit
the
happens.
inability to control viral load, at least in the respiratory tract, and maybe elsewhere.
No.
And this is a kind of a sad picture for me because I thought that these antiviral cytokines, such as interferon alpha and gamma, would be able to control the viral load. But instead, it's the viral load that's driving these cytokines.
It creates cytokine storm. That's one of the main
cytokines that are supposed to control the virus. So it's very
The
similar
human
to
immune
what
response is actually killing some of the
in the
people.
mouse model, that these viral loads seem to be driving these
Yeah, I still don't understand why, but
inability for these cytokines to really actually control the virus.
yeah.
And similarly, you'll see some of the sort of cytokine storm players like TNF alpha and TRAIL being also consistently regulated by the virus. And this is also pretty surprising to me.
Look at 6. This one. Look at this
Is
one.
that if you look at the patients who died versus those that are discharged from the hospital, and then you look at their cytokine level during the first 12 days since symptom onset, so pretty early during disease, you see that interferon alpha again is elevated in the patients who ended up dying of disease compared to those that were eventually discharged. And there's a slight similar trend for TNF and other cytokines, but IL-1 receptor antagonist is also quite significant, IL-6.
That one, look at that one. The one that you have my mouse on right now. Look at that one. Interleukin 6.
Counterproductive, and that these patients are suffering and dying from infection when they did induce such high levels.
The way people die is from overactive immune system when they're on ventilators. And that's why that dexamethasone, that the steroid, I don't know if this is too late to tell you because if not the ventilator, that steroid is actually it cuts death by 1/3. And it's significant. It cuts death by 1/3. So if you're on a ventilator, it kills 33% less people if you have that steroid. And if you're on oxygen and not a ventilator, just supplemental oxygen, it kills 1/5. If you don't need hospitalization oxygen, it doesn't makes no difference at all. Because you don't need it. Doesn't make sense. You don't need that steroid if you don't need oxygen. So.
Strange things happen.
Yeah, so weird.
IgE response, which is really maladaptive for viral response, become
Yeah,
elevated and keep going up in patients who have severe disease and eosinophils are completely unrelated to antiviral function are becoming elevated and so on. So
eosinophils is in allergies, you know.
And effective functions that happen,
Allergies.
even for the antifungal here. So it's sort of looking from
I know.
you see that this severe disease is driven by early cytokine response, inability to clear the virus, and all kinds of effectors being engaged and targeted in these patients.
That's what's been killing people in the upstream.
So we asked the computer to tell us what's going on using unsupervised clustering to really bin these patients into different categories that are close.
Artificial intelligence.
And what we saw is that there are three kinds of clusters of patients that emerged from this unsupervised analysis. And that is basically characterized by 4 different immunological gene features. And
Tissue repair growth
what I want to
factors.
draw your attention to is that cluster 1, which I'll tell you, these are the patients that do well, have a enrichment in the genes that are related to tissue repair growth factors, such as those that are indicated here, PDGF and EGF and so on, that are probably important for repairing the damage in the lung. Whereas they're not as enriched for these other signatures like cytokines, type 2 and 3 immune response, and mixed immune response of all sorts, which is highly elevated in the cluster 3 patients. So these patients are the ones that ended up becoming severely ill and some of them dying. Whereas the cluster 2 is somewhere in between. Again, these patients also tended to elevate lots of chemokines and maybe not so much the type 2-3 mixture, but also this mixed cytokine response.
That's fascinating.
What's different about these 3?
Correlation is not equal causation, right?
First, we looked at their sort of demographic changes.
It might just be
such as age, and also
the virus getting to where
cluster 1, as I mentioned,
the different parts of your body and not just your lungs.
there wasn't a huge difference in age distribution.
If the virus doesn't start infecting multiple organs, maybe that's why.
The third cluster is slightly higher, but it's not hugely different in terms of how long these patients stayed in the hospital. But what was quite different is that if you follow these clusters of patients over time, what we see is that the cluster 1 patients, the majority of them actually recovered, and they were discharged from the hospital. Whereas 2 and 3, as I mentioned, they rapidly progress in clinical score, and 3 is the most rapid progression, and ending up in many of these patients having mortality. And this is looking at other features like
every 3 days usually, right?
Also elevated in
you collected every 3 days, that means the 5 would be 15 days.
Is higher for the second and third cluster. So what we've learned through this longitudinal analysis is that there's persistent viral load detected from severe disease patients, and viral load is driving the inflammatory and interferon response, not the other way around. And early increases in these inflammatory cytokines and interferons are predictive of mortality. And 4 signatures of genes can distinguish patients into those that recover and those that will progress rapidly to worse disease. And in patients who develop worse disease, there are these misfiring of cytokines that belong to these 3 different kinds of effector functions that become elevated and doesn't get suppressed over time. So it's clearly not intended for an antiviral immune effector mechanism. And how that's being mediated, it's a really
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
So
I should have asked him.
I just want to end by thanking the amazing members of my laboratory.
And thank you for educating
not only tackle
the past.
research questions, but they were
President Trump. I mean, it is August 24, 2025. Professor Gakiyo Ozaki said July.
Everyone else to use, as well as testing the nasopharyngeal
your
and
CDC director
from patients
is in May
workers,
2019.
Kind of provide a better public health control in our community.
Yeah, I mean, this is the earliest I could find Doctor.
That originally started this by a repository.
Lady Doctor, CDC director.
To do this research. Some of them are listed
Bad with
here.
names.
And of course the funding agency that allowed us to do this. And I want to end by just sort of thanking my amazing lab members who, as I mentioned, working tirelessly to serve the community as well as to do research on COVID. And although we've done everything on Zoom, it's been kind of remarkable to see how rapidly and how efficiently people were able to tackle these sort of issues related to COVID-19. And while caring for children and others, family members, without any kind of child care, most of us, it's just remarkable, and I really want to
hi everybody.
Contributions here. And I didn't even get a chance to talk about all the projects, but I just wanted to thank everyone here and thank you for listening.
Cummings, Congressman. Almost.
Mr. Kiko, very elegant.
And again, you have to look other areas.
Holy fucking shit.
And a big shout out to lab members as well for without further ado, we will.
You have 5 months left to live. Congressman Cummings has 5 months left to live. You are dying in October of this year, Congressman Cummings. I would retire. He is this dude who's talking to you has 5 months left to live. I would recommend retiring and going on vacation. This guy. Sorry. I mean, not you. The Congressman Cummings has 5 months left.
It's participants, attendees. Right.
See, I think
You got technical difficulties.
So, were you powered to look at any effect of hormones in your older women? Did you have big enough N to know if your HRT female participants did better than non-replaced participants?
really
Hormone
great
replacement
personas.
therapy? I have no idea.
We are not powered enough to do those experiments in the cohort A. However, we are expanding. So we have 10,000 patients who became COVID.
Early warning for all of you, right?
So what I told you about is a small subfraction of that. But we should.
Yeah, but don't get the virus. The virus make your pee not working.
Really,
You like your penis, right? Everybody likes your penis. Everybody likes your penis. Anybody with a man likes your penis? Virus makes your penis not work.
Postmenopausal women versus premenopausal to really get at this issue.
Geoscience is well, Daniel O'Day, I need to talk to you in the past about inventing some shit. Daniel O'Day, you are the inventor of linear activation.
So, you know,
who is CEO
it's hard to imagine that's all coming from hormones.
Is it still you?
That's a really critical question.
Still you.
It is really hard to imagine it's all coming from hormones.
No, I mean, you joined in March. I mean, you are still the CEO, but I need to help this guy invent drugs.
But there are, aside from endocrinologists, all of whom, as far as I can tell, are hormone replaced if they're female. But has always been this question about whether the progesterone replacement that you have to.
The bars are closed and we're staying in the house.
With the estrogen action on X, Y, and Z. So that might be useful. That might be useful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also taking a less biased analysis of hormones and metabolites in these patients.
I do not know.
To
I know
understand if there are
from your future, serotonin levels are lower in long COVID.
Variable that correlate with
cortisol levels are lower in long COVID. People who are suffering from long COVID
But also I thought it was very striking that
lower serotonin and lower
you
cortisol
did not,
levels.
if I recall, have the same kind of correlation with BMI in the women that you did in the men.
Body mass
So
index.
that's quite disturbing, honestly. And then I imagine it would be very interesting to look at the Chinese data because I don't think you have quite such morbidity associated with old age in the Chinese population as we have in our own population. And then there's smoking, of course. Anyway, you've got this incredible.
No, I don't know if Alexis is smoking. I don't know if Alexis is smoking. Doctor, I could go. That's a damn woman that smokes.
So that's why I said at the end, like, you know, this is what we've learned, but multiple countries,
Andrew does not drink. Andrew does not smoke. Andrew does not.
They're seeing different things.
Andrew's IQ is 137.
Biological basis of those things are
137 IQ.
Certainly.
I need to talk to this guy to invent lenacapavir, the cure for HIV, basically.
Next up, we've got a question.
We have a cure for HIV in the future, sort of. Lenacapavir.
IT, can you turn on Kathy?
Did he just? I think President.
All right, Kathy, you're up. Unmute yourself.
Hi.
What day is this?
Kathy, thank you for the wonderful presentation.
I don't know who the hell you said.
Wondering, have you done any kind of
5 years
work
ago
besides the live animal models? And if you have done work,
Was it,
do you have a suggestion for the best cell line to use, a lung epithelial cell and?
Yeah, 50 minutes.
Yeah, I guess just suggestions of the cell lines that would be best.
Yeah, so it really depends on what your questions are.
I have no idea.
We've done a collaboration work with Craig Wyman's lab where he used a air liquid interface respiratory epithelial cell culture system to look at the infection as well as transcriptome at the single cell level. And that's on also
I'm getting tired.
And essentially from there what we're seeing is sort of tropism for different kinds of airway epithelial cells.
August when Elijah Cummings, I would retire and go enjoy
human
life.
lung might look like in vivo. There's
the last
also
5 months of your life
autopsy type of analysis that's done.
Go to the beach.
In
I
terms of
mean,
cell
go to
line,
Tahiti or something. Go to
you know, if
Hawaii.
you just want to look at immune stimulation,
this dude that's asking a question, he only has 5 months left to live.
Red eye or this kind of issue. I think you can use
I would go on
epithelial
vacation.
cell line, but a lot of the sort of biology is lost.
You know what's really sad is
use cell line. So I think you have to kind of like weigh your importance of the
I
question
was actually
to using cell line versus some of these air liquid culture systems.
Yeah, seriously. Good trouble.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
All right, Charles, can you please raise your
Good
hand?
trouble. Necessary trouble. I remember that.
Okay.
Something's
Unmute
not
yourself.
saying.
Okay. You're up. Charles?
And then they hear about these figures and they say,
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask Charles this question for him.
That is an interesting question.
What's the role of blood group?
Something I helped create,
we've seen
possibly.
a lot of reports about, the O antigen and A. Do you think those are powered enough? And what do you guys see in your studies?
Yeah, so
Well,
unfortunately,
Dr. Akiko
this limited
do you know anybody
we've done
in the
is
biomedical
definitely not
sense
power
as a
enough
CEO
to answer those
that
questions,
want to
but
receive
as I
cures
mentioned, we do have a
for
much larger cohort
other things,
in total,
women,
and we
women
are looking
CEOs,
into that. And for that
people that want to
analysis,
make billionaires, you
we are
know.
looking at some of
For
the
now,
features, but looking
I'm
more
cool
at
with
the sort of
giving
genetic
Neil Science the
level
cure for
analysis,
HIV, basically.
with
I'm cool with
collaboration
that.
with Mike Murray's group,
I'm
who
cool with
has
that. I'm just
this
cool with that.
generation
But,
study where he looks at the genome sequences from every patient that comes in the
I mean,
hospital.
we're basically inventing cures for stuff
Hopefully we can
by
rely
cheating with
those
information in the
genetic,
future.
Data
I want to
better
find some
to
women
try
to make
understand,
rich.
like
I mean,
blood group A, sort of preponderance for worse disease. And so we're combining the genetic data to some sort of immune features. We're analyzing sort of in a more targeted manner to understand if there's any correlation.
It's different drug. Lenacapavir is a nucleocapsid inhibitor for HIV, first in class. It is 100% to 99% effective.
But the risk analysis have shown like slight elevation, so which means we need like thousands of patients to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget the name of, I forget the determinant of the type O group, but there have been several reports that show that one of the SARS-2 orfs is binds to that. I think it's, I want to say CD127, something like that. Do you think those are real?
No, that's not what.
I don't know. Yeah, we haven't
It's
tested specifically.
the
what
spike protein
targets are,
binds to
so
one of the
I can't tell you,
CDs.
but yeah, there's a lot of research being done on that.
I actually know the answer to that.
Excellent.
Which CD?
Let's see. I've got some follow-ups on the gender
I forget the number.
disparities. So we talked mostly about sex hormones.
Shit, what is the CD? I don't remember the CD.
Which has been, mentioned a
CD147,
lot
by the
by a lot of the speakers so far.
Maybe?
As you know, the human
CD147 binds to
has more
H.
immune-related genes than any other. So, I mean, I guess the general question would be, what do you think about the involvement of those genes? And the specific question would be,
CD147 is just because it's just like 47.
X inactivation and X monosomy in female responses to COVID.
Yeah,
It's cluster of a differential 147. It binds to the spike.
Questions and yeah, certainly we've also paid attention to some of the X chromosome linked genes that are relevant to RNA viruses like TLR7. And it's possible that those, the incomplete inactivation of one of the X chromosomes in women are leading to a more robust T cell activation. It's very easy for me to imagine that might be happening.
I don't know that. If I know the answer,
answer,
I will let you know.
Mouse model to kind of interrogate this molecular mechanism.
It is an interesting virus from a scientific point of view. Interesting virus.
Male versus female animals to see if really indeed the adaptive immune activation we're seeing in female correlate with TLR7 and requires TLR7 and so on. So that's sort of our next step.
I'm gonna die
is to
and
really
take a nap
interrogate
after
the
this.
molecular mechanisms and
So I'm going to ask one more. I'm going to ask a follow-up question about the mouse model, and then we're going to go to.
You have 10 minutes left.
Mario.
10 minutes in the future for
so
them.
Mario, can you go ahead and raise your hand, please? And in the meanwhile, so my question about the mouse model is, I imagine you saw the paper Ziegler et al. Cell, May 28th. The title is
Dude, I mean, Leonard Capavir. Leonard Capavir is 2022. I mean, you got 3 years before you got the most miracle drug for HIV.
But one of the
Nucleic capsid inhibitor. First in class nucleic capsid
they
inhibitor.
didn't find it to be an ISG in the mouse model. So, do you guys see that
When
in
did
your
Leonard
sequencing data?
Capavir?
And if so, what are the implications on that of the relevance of the mouse model?
Yeah, so I would have to say that our mouse model is quite artificial in that it sidesteps all of the endogenous.
The clinical trials were
regulations,
started
right?
in
So we're just
2018. You were already testing lenacapavir.
high
So this guy already knows about lenacapavir.
Definitely not going to
It is absolutely effective.
Stimulated induction, elevation.
You already know about lenacapavir. You're testing from last year. Click Facebook, you're going to find out. It is 100% to 99% effective for preventing HIV. They have a drug in the pipeline.
Still not going to be able to look at that issue. So I do admit
they have a cure for HIV already
kind of
being tested
artificial
in
model
2018.
to study infection, but
They have a cure for HIV, basically.
informative if you have like one
no.
targeted question that doesn't.
I already know the results of the trial,
stability of the
Congressman Jordan.
Yeah.
This guy. Clinton 1 trial for lenacapavir is started last year.
So why wouldn't you use a transgenic mouse model?
Fucking awesome, right?
We are.
Okay.
HIV kind of has a cure. Kind of.
And you know, obviously, like
Injection and because it's 6 month injection. You inject the lenacapavir in your blood, and it stays in your body for 6 months, and it prevents HIV for 6 months, and
we
then.
obviously have to cross them onto different genetic.
If there's no drug resistance for this,
That'll take weeks.
if there's no
Whereas
drug
this
resistance for
particular
lenacapavir, it will.
Very rapid. But
It is a cure for
much
HIV,
more,
basically. This guy you're talking to has a
because
cure for
there are
HIV,
pathogenic
basically.
roles. We do
Yeah.
need more than walk-in
This
studies.
drug
So
you're
hopefully
taking,
we're
drug
kind of
Truvita,
using
is
the
not the
models
drug you
in
guys
a
should be
way that
talking
is
about.
most suited to our question.
Sorry. I mean,
And I apologize.
hope for the
One more
future.
follow-up.
Lenacapavir, nucleic capsid inhibitor.
Since
It inhibits the binding.
What genetic background of mouse are you going into?
You don't need to worry about Truvita. Truvita is not the drug you wanted. Truvita is not the drug you
Okay,
wanted
well, I
to.
mean, you know, like
Lenacapavir is the drug.
doesn't,
There's another drug that this guy is
ICM
testing that started clinical trial in 2018.
You know, like I probably
That
wouldn't be
drug
like 6.
basically cures HIV.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So that's the other
And it's,
versatility of this.
It's
mouse model that
pre-exposure
you can
prophylaxis.
pretty much- Yeah, if there is a
It will
feature
cure-
in biopsy that you want to look at, you can put in there. Research, yeah, I mean,
for the
all these inbred
because
mice
of
are
Alexis
clinical,
Ren's
so you
feet.
again have to choose.
Of course.
Okay.
And
Alexis
now,
Ren's feet is gonna
okay,
make me
so Mario,
keep the funding for. I mean, Andrew, make sure the funding for that drug for Africa is kept.
Hi Mario, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, you have 5 months in now.
So I have a little question. Have you tried to look if these differences between male and female responses are also driven by diseases?
Well, you guys, I mean, I will prevent.
Yeah,
I
like
prefer a woman
hypertension
event.
or diabetes.
Come to Jesus moment.
So,
So basically, I have to go back another 10 years when you're president and tell Gilead Science how to make lenacapavir. So I gotta help them invent this shit.
Sorry about the doctor.
I mean, I know, right? I have to help them invent this cure. Who the fuck invented this cure, right? Oh my God, you're.
Kind of dissect out the contribution of comorbidities and pre-existing conditions to sex differences, and we're indeed doing that with the data
Well,
scientists.
Professor Akiko Iwasaki, I would like some women to invent stuff. I mean, I don't want to brag or nothing. I basically invented the cure for HIV. Andrew invented it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi Sonia.
Hi, Dr. Akiko.
Because I'm gonna tell, I can tell them how to make the cure for HIV in the past, and then all of a sudden, lenacapavir just Oh, so the captain just pops out of nowhere for me.
Treated patients. I don't know if you mentioned, maybe I missed it, but how did you manage the analysis for
And President Trump is gonna fix that shit.
for example, patients who were treated with antivirals or something like that?
Yeah, so we didn't exclude patients who were treated with antivirals.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if Andrew helps y'all invent something, technically speaking, it shouldn't y'all make the shit cheaper for Americans. Because
like tocilizumab or high-dose corticosteroids. But yeah, you know,
you don't need a
ultimately
high-dose
we want to look at the
dexamethasone.
antivirals and how that
Cheap.
influences the immune and so on.
The UK is actually testing it.
Those kinds of studies.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Development of life-saving drugs.
All right.
DE.
I've got another question for you, Akiko.
This is actually
beautiful slide of all the
DEXAMEMETHASONE. Dexamethasone, cheap steroid. Cheap as fuck
The
steroid.
thing that has stood out the most to me as a wonder drug is tocilizumab that you talked about.
What the hell?
So, you know, as you said, that's an IL-6 receptor blocker. Why do you think that seems so particularly effective? So yeah, maybe just handle
Okay,
that.
doctor, the UK has data for this. Dexamethasone, DEXAMETHASONE. It cuts ventilator deaths by 1/3 and oxygen deaths by 1/5. It actually works scientifically.
For treatment of COVID patients, and early on they've adapted to
Because it suppresses the cyclohexol.
moderate cases to be treated with tocilizumab. So again,
You don't
this
need
wasn't
really
a
expensive
clinical
steroid
trial,
treatment.
so we cannot say
Dexamethasone,
whether
cheap
that was
steroid.
beneficial.
And it's actually
There are other
beneficial.
studies that are ongoing.
It saves a third of the ventilator deaths in the UK. They actually studied it.
By the clinical team.
The UK is going to publish the test in August. So it's in your future.
Tumor patients, cancer patients. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't involved
How are
in
these
that decision, but that's why a lot of people got it.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, in 1 month in your future, you'll figure out that I'm telling you it's
Other
true.
studies
So.
of drug repurposing and it varies.
The only thing that really works,
You know,
that I
that's
can
always
scientifically
in
say,
the top 3.
when they're on ventilators, is this cheap
I
steroid.
didn't
So.
know if that was, something special about IL-6, so the signaling pathway itself, or it might be, boring explanations like, that antibody
Please,
has better
Roger.
biodistribution than the other ones and higher affinity or something. So I didn't know, if we should interpret this as, IL-6 is the thing that you need to shut down,
Very good.
or that it's, might just be something more random, that that's just a really good drug.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, like
They're talking about a drug that wrong drug. Truvita is not the drug you want to use. Lenacapavir. In the future, right?
If I had to pick
2020.
an antibody, I would have picked something else. So,
Yeah, I know, right? They're talking about Truvita, and then I understand it. That's not the drug you want to talk about. I'm in the future, Akiko, so I know which drug.
Sarada is. Oh, you need to go.
I'm hot. I want to go to sleep. It's hot. I know. Yes, you do. You have 1 minute.
One more, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, exactly 1 minute and 18 seconds. 1 minute.
Turning on IL-12 would be really great. Do you know our
Last
people
minute.
trying
Last
to
minute. Yeah.
intervene
Nice to meet you, by Red. Nice to meet you, Lauren. My name's Andrew, by the way. My name's Andrew.
heard of that particular
It's August 24,
strategy.
2025.
I know people are
August
injecting
24.
other growth factors like GM-CSF and
I don't know.
several others, but I haven't heard of IL-12.
I would not recommend any really crazy experiments.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure
Only
that-
backed by
yeah,
science. Andrew will only recommend things backed by science.
Yeah.
I mean, I took immunosuppressants. Andrew took herbal immunosuppressants. Andrew took herbal immunosuppressants on purpose.
Interesting topic we can go on forever.
I took herbal immunosuppressants on purpose to prevent the cytokine storm problem. Nice talking to you. I'll see you around.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
I will say,
See you around in 2025.
actually lowering prescription drug prices and making sure that availability.
Anyway, I'm tired and hot. It's freaking hot.
With my Democrat colleagues,
it is hell hot.
To put bills on the floor.
I'm gonna do 1 hour 23 minutes. Stop just like Alexis' birthday.
Is not going to solve this
so
problem.
Alexis' birthday November 23rd.
Important that we allow for the R&D that happens. That has
R&D is Andrew telling them how to build this shit.
That they continue.
In the past, hey, look, hey, Galen Sons, you want to build a new drug that cures HIV? Here's the molecular formula from Andrew the future. And I mean, I don't want to brag or nothing. Congressman Congressman Cummings, you know who invented the lenacapavir, right? The cure for HIV. Let me go pee. Andrew, right? I'm gonna go pee. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to brag or nothing. From my perspective, Congressman Jordan, lenacapavir just popped out of nowhere.
Look at the title of the hearing: billions in corporate profits after you're going after writing the title of today's hearing. Dr. Grant,
that's the thing, Congressman Cummings. Who do you think saved black people of Africa? I mean, who do you think saved the black people of Africa from AIDS? Who do you think actually invented lenacapavir? I mean, from my perspective, lenacapavir just popped out of nowhere. That is a very complex molecule. Who invented? Andrew did, or God did. Either God or Andrew did.
All drug prices to come down. We want that to happen. So let's figure out.
I see Senator, Congressman Cummings shaking his head.
A company who's developed an amazing drug that has helped so many people, and they're
the company developed it, or
working on a cure.
They do have a cure, basically. It's basically a cure. It as a treatment, it suppresses HIV. There's 2 drugs. You get to do lenacapavir, 2 drugs. As treatment for HIV, it works to prevent just the injection itself. It suppresses HIV. And as a prevention, is 100% to 99% effective. 100% effective in at-risk populations and 99% effective in non-at-risk populations for some reason.
Is that correct?
So, I mean, 99% is not 100% effective, but somebody still got HIV for some reason. Not exactly sure, and
is it just that we have the greatest brain power, or why would we?
You have a fucking time machine. That's why.
Do that. Why does that come from here and not from some other country?
Combination of factors, as I tried to indicate.
Combination of factors is America has a fucking time machine.
A lot of cases, public-private partnerships bring innovative new drugs.
That's why American.
The pharmaceutical industry.
Well, unfortunately, you did not prevent the pandemic.
Areas where we have this to come up and have ground.
And you know why you don't want that put it in the pandemic, right?
Pharmaceuticals that actually.
Some dumbass motherfucker.
Not just the United States, but certainly the world at large. Is that correct?
Some dumbass motherfucker thinks that was a good idea to steal my fucking girlfriend.
Best scientists in the world, and a system broadly that enables innovators to undertake the risky process of investing hundreds of millions, if not billions, into a possible new drug and earn for a temporary period of time revenues from those innovations that can then be reinvested into future generations.
So
yeah, after you get information from Andrew on how to build the fucking drug for the future.
Many companies make. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if we look
I mean, we gotta restart this age of innovation from inventing drugs that basically can't motherfucking make.
Why can't
Let's have 1 hour.
You know, in the EU and other areas.
Yeah, that is an answer question.
At times, the way that we've done this, and for me, a lot of this has come on.
They invested $1 billion in the thing.
Had a number of
After I told them how to make this drug with the exact formula, I printed out when the calculated the.
Still protect the patents, allow for research and development, and yet make sure that what
I'm gonna find Gilead Sciences, the chairman, and then read them the.
Populations. Is there a way to do that without having it a government-owned entity?
I think there is certainly a way to do that without having a government.
I think I'm gonna have to.
Private sector remains the best engine.
I'm gonna look for some women and
I think there are interesting
women startups, women-owned startups, and women CEOs.
Think more thoughtfully about how to increase
Startups for new drugs and new cures for cancer. I'm gonna try
drug
to.
development system is so many drugs get to like phase 3 clinical trials and then fail, and that's a massive cost for both the companies and the system. If we could focus on public-private partnerships like around translational research that would focus on how we can bring more efficiency to the R&D drug discovery process,
No shit,
that
man.
would be a very important
Quantum
way
competing using
to
Andrew.
eliminate some of the costs in the drug discovery system.
All right, I look
Yeah,
forward
because
to
I know the actual structure of lenacapavir. I know the structure of lenacapavir, the final structure of the drug that actually works. We don't need to try to test the other drugs, right, Congressman Jordan? We don't need to test out the other. I know the drug that actually works.
The District of Columbia.
Yeah,
I'm interested in PrEP because it is, of course, the cornerstone.
I'm gonna stop at 1:30 because it's easy to remember.
Plan, so it plans to reduce.
I mean, 1:28.
It plans to.
1:28 is good. Oh my gosh.